All right, peace. I'm just gonna wait for a few people to get up in here, and then we will go ahead and get started. All right. We'll just wait. I'm just gonna wait for a minute or two, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Peace, brother Andre. Let's get this stuff ready while I'm waiting. All right. Peace, brother Duma. All right. I'm just gonna wait another minute or two. Real quick, while we're waiting, I'll do my damn phone. Peace, smooth God. While we're waiting, just a couple quick announcements. I think I pretty much got back to everybody that requested an invite for the ritual next Friday, the 31st. To my knowledge, according to my emails, I've contacted everybody and spoke with everybody that wants to come. If I by chance missed you and you did send me an email, and it can happen, it can go to the junk box, or maybe I overlooked it, and you're either watching the video now or you might watch a recording of it later. If you did send me an email and I have not gotten back to you, send me another email. The email is in the description box of all the videos. I'll give it to you. It's khnum19@gmail.com. We will keep the invite for the ritual open until next Wednesday. Then we will cut that off. You need to, again, if you plan on attending, you need to contact me so we could have a brief conversation, some information you need about attending the ritual as far as what to wear, how to prepare for it, etc. And location. Location is not given out until the day before the ritual. We'll tell you what area you need to be in if you're traveling. So again, if I missed you, to my knowledge, up until this point, I've contacted everybody about next weekend's ritual. If I didn't, hit me up. You can email me, and I'll make sure I get back to you. If you are interested, again, in a spiritual consultation or a reading, please specify which one. I want to make it clear they're different. A reading is using a system of divination and consulting the spirits, where a consultation is more of a free-for-all. We can pretty much discuss whatever you want. You pretty much dictate the flow of that. It can go any route you want. It can go in reference to setting up altars, any questions that you might have, certain systems you might be trying to work, etc. You pretty much dictate the flow of that. Again, you could also reach me at the same email address, khnum19@gmail.com. No, Anarchy said, if you can't get to me personally, I do them in a private Google Hangout call. So we can do it via a social media platform. No, I'm actually I do not live in New York anymore. I'm in Fort Lauderdale. So you could email me if you are interested in that. Yeah, and it's a private video call. That's how I do it for people that can't get to me face to face. If you can get to me face to face, that makes it a lot easier, but not mandatory. All right. All right, so peace and greetings to everybody that came in the room. So what I want to kind of talk about tonight, to clarify a few things. Obviously, over the years, and I literally mean over the years, I frequently get emails off and on about Palo. All right. Now, as we know, there's different branches of Palo. The two most popular being Palo Mayombe and Palo Monte. I'm sorry. We're going to talk a little bit about both. Mainly Palo Mayombe. Some things to understand. I want to make this clear. I'm going to go over two ways. One, for those that have asked questions in the past about getting involved in Palo on some level, whether it's being scratched or becoming a full-blown Palero, if that's your thing. I'm going to explain the traditional way, and then I'm going to explain how on this path there is a way you can still work with the Palo spirits and not have to be fully initiated, but there is a way you should go about it. There is a way that you should do it. It's also, I want to do this video to warn people of, you got a lot of these fake Paleros online, these so-called Tatas online, offering all these ridiculously priced services. I want to say this. Anybody that's been initiated in Palo or involved in it on some level knows it's a very tight-lipped circle. It's not something that's commercialized. You won't see a true Palero all over the internet talking about what he does or she does, their credentials, and offering all these services. Not somebody that truly practices Palero. I don't even give a shit if it's I know we're in the day and age of social media, this and that, but trust me when I tell you, they're not going to be online running these fake advertisements and scams and claims and credentials, because it's a very tight-knit, quote unquote, secret society. So I want to kind of put that out there. Two, yes, I'm going to go over a couple of books you can get on Palo. Some of you may or may not already have them. But I also want to be clear when it comes to books. There's not many really good books out there on Palo. I'm going to refer to two works tonight. One, Carlos Montenegro, is probably one of the few that gives you enough for the basics. Because, again, I want to make this clear. This is a spiritual system that's really passed down from mouth to ear. Now, for the most part, a lot of the core-based fundamentals of the spiritual system are similar, but depending on what house you belong to, who your godparents are, now I'm talking from a traditional perspective, and their lineage, some of the quote-unquote traditions and methods of doing things are going to vary. So that's why I'm trying to make it clear. There's not going to be one specific. This is one of those traditions. It's not a book, a tell-all book you're going to get on Palo, identically how it goes. It's a bunch of bullshit. Trust me when I tell you that. It also works that way to an extent with Ifa/Santeria, because, again, based on the house you come through, the family and the traditional lineage, the historical lineage is going to vary. But again, you will see a lot of similarities. So I want to make that clear. If you have not traditionally been initiated in Palo, you will never fully understand it from a traditional aspect. Having said that, it does not mean you cannot work with it on some level, dealing with black magic practices, being an adept of the black arts, because it is one of those quote unquote darker arts. It is one of those systems of working quote unquote with the spirits of the dead. So what I want to focus on some of the basics, and I'm going to show you both ways. Another good book is Secrets of the Naga by Carlos Montenegro, which gets into depth of how Naga pots are made. It basically, doesn't give you the actual full initiation you go through, but it gives you the implements, how the pots are created for each Palo spirit. I also want to make this clear and to kind of put a stamp on that question that I get off and on for years. Should I or should I not join Palo if you're interested in it? Well, I want to also make this clear, and I've mentioned this before, and I'm going to mention it again. It's not one of those systems you can just get up one day and go, I want to fully immerse myself in Palo. You got to find out if it's in your blood to be scratched or / initiated. just as many people that get initiated in Palo get turned away from being in Palo. And I'm going to explain to you why. First and foremost, it's not like joining a Masonic Lodge or, say, IFA or another spiritual system where you can, willingly just kind of join and go through the protocol. Palo being it's a little bit more intense. You're working with a lot of quote unquote darker, intense energy. This is what you got to be conscious of. First and foremost, if you haven't been marked or through system of deviation by way of a Polaro, then you need to find that method out first before you even, again, you can't just get up and go, today I want to become a Polaro and join Palo. This is not how it works. I want to make that clear. How that is done. Now, this becomes the challenging part. Finding a decent house if you go the traditional route. Let's say you decide you want to go the traditional route. Step one would be to find a Polaro that is operating a house where they're working regular rituals. Now, that's the challenge, because unfortunately in this day and time, there's a lot of hustlers, con artists, and scammers out there. Having said that, there are some good, sincere people out there too. You just might have to go on a little bit of a mission to find them. I wouldn't recommend just trusting the first aspect of it that you run into. I would try to find a couple of people if you can. And I know it's going to be limited depending on what part of the country you're in. That might affect how much opportunities you have. Obviously, their spiritual practice is very prominent in down here in Florida, places like New York, California, all over the East Coast, the Caribbean. You might have a rougher time if you're in the Midwest, the Mid-South. Some of those states is rough because not that there's not no places there that practice this path, but it might be a little tough to find. So that's the challenge. Finding a house and attending their spiritual gatherings that they have for the Palo spirits. And one of two things will usually take place if you attend consistently. When the Palo spirits are brought down, I'm going to go through the spirits of Palo Mayombe in detail tonight. When they're brought down, you will either be marked by one of the spirits, or the other way is to get a reading by a Polaro to see if it's in your DNA or if it's in your blood. If it's not, you might be told this is not a good thing for you to do. It's not necessary for you to do. It could actually be adverse for you to do and create more problems for you than it can help you. So that would be step one. And again, I'm going through this process for people who on and off send emails about I'm interested in Palo. Do you think I should get initiated? It's not about what I think, because what I think is irrelevant. It has nothing to do with I think or anybody else thinks. It's what your DNA ancestors think. And that's what a consultation or getting marked for determines. Now, if you get marked or it comes up in the consultation that, yes, this is something you should or need to do or would be a good thing for you to do, then power to you. Then from that point on, you can make the decision, do I want to traditionally go through Palo? Now, you need to understand this too. One, if you don't like animal sacrifice, this is not the spiritual system for you. And understand, when you go through a traditional spiritual system, you don't have a say-so of what you can, of what you can and cannot do. It's not like being an adept of the black arts where you're in full control, where you make the decisions, you do what you want to do. You can't do that when you go through these spiritual systems. You must follow the protocol. You must go through whatever house rules are set up from the house that you belong to, of that Polaro, he or she. You must follow the traditions. You must do it identically that way. I want to make this clear. This is not, I'm going to go in, and I think sometimes some people think that. I'm not talking about people that are familiar with Palo, that have some type of experience with it or maybe initiated it. I'm more or less talking about the new seeker or maybe somebody not as familiar with it. You don't have that option. I want to make that clear. And animal sacrifice is a very, very, very strong aspect of it. So if you have an issue with animals being sacrificed, may not be the path for you. Okay, so I want to make those things clear. There are also intense initiations one must go through, depending on whatever particular Palo spirit that you are marked. Okay, and when I say intense, you could be tested on a wide range of levels, physically, mentally, emotionally, depending on whatever spirit you walk with. Because remember, the objective of Palo is kind of, in essence, like a secret society or a Masonic lodge, is to test, bring the best out of you by bringing the worst out of you, if you understand what I'm saying. There is drinking of blood in certain rituals. I want to make that clear. What I mean by that is, depending on certain Palo spirits, in certain rituals, sometimes heads of chickens are bit off by the initiate, and you must drink the blood from the neck of the chicken. I'm not saying all. I'm just being. I can only tell you what I have experienced and what I'm aware of, what others have experienced. That's a part of it. So if drinking blood is an issue for you, this is not the path. And why I'm putting all this out there, because I don't want you to just look from it on the outside and it looks so African and spiritual. And it is to an extent, but it's an intense path. It's work. And in my experience, if I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't have bothered with it. Knowing what I know now and knowing the system that I work now. I also want to make this clear. Obviously when you're scratched, you're marked, initiated, be it EFA or whatever, you're always embedded in there to a certain extent. But when it comes to EFA, Santeria, Palo, I'm not fully active in that stuff anymore. I still keep in contact with my godparents, but don't participate regularly because they know my position, etc. Having said all that, is there still a way you can work with the Palo spirits? Yes, there is. But you got to make sure you educate yourself on how you can incorporate this into your practice. Because, as I said earlier in the beginning of the video, there's a lot of hustlers. There's a lot of online high priests just with no credentials at all, selling you crazy shit for ridiculous amounts of prices. And that's not the way to go. Like I said in the beginning of the video, it's a tight-knit, spiritual path. Everything's passed from mouth to ear. Nobody's going to be open if you're not in as far as that individual's house. They're not going to give you information on who their godparents are, their lineage, what system they came through, how they got it. That's not going to be revealed unless you get. It's not that you have to be fully initiated, but at least you have to be a known participant in that group's house. It's not something that's openly talked about. So that's why I'm saying when you see these people on the internet selling you shit and saying they can create you. First of all, nobody can create you a Nagapot on the internet. That's a bunch of bullshit. All right. And I'm going to show you why, because I'm going to go through one Nagapot tonight, Zarabanda, the one that I'm very familiar with. And you tell me if you think somebody could do that on the internet and sell that shit. You understand? So we'll go through that. And again, the objective of this video is to clear up the spookism, the mythology, maybe the unknown or the doubt, or just some valuable information that you can move forward with in reference to this spiritual system, because I know it comes up a lot in the videos and the classes, etc. All right, so let's get familiar with some of the spirits, all right, of Palo, right? And after we get familiar with some of the spirits, then I'll show you on this path how you can work with them without having to do animal sacrifice, without having to be a full-blown initiate, because you still can work with these spirits. It's just as long as you apply basic common sense. It's not even that deep. But at the same token, just like any other spiritual system, just like anything else you study, at least gather enough of information so you know what you're doing. Because don't go into shit just blindly doing it because you want to do it because it looks so African and it looks so spiritual. Unfortunately, I'm not saying that that's everybody, but unfortunately, a lot of people do shit like that because it looks so, appealing to them. And there's a little bit more to it than that. All right, I'm going to be reading from Carlos Montenegro's book. He's got a couple. The one I'm going to be reading from is Palo Mayombe. Spirits, Rituals, and Spells. The book came out in 1994. You can get it online. You can get it on Scribe. You can get it on any ebook format. It's a very, very available book. Out of a lot of the books that's out there, I feel based on what I know, I feel like he's being the most honest to a point of what he can tell. But again, I want to make this clear. Like, again, I said in the beginning, if you came in late, there's not one book out there that's going to tell you everything. If you think that, it's a bunch of bullshit, because majority of it is passed from mouth to ear. And that's the whole reason of being initiated or getting on the inside. All right. But anyway, let me go to Zarabanda, the initiation of Zarabanda. We're going to go through that a little bit. And then I'm going to go through all the spirits. The first one being, we're going to talk about Zarabanda, right? The spirit Zarabanda is the divine messenger of the underworld. It is through the spirit Zarabanda that mankind can communicate directly with the spirit world. The cauldron contains all of the elements necessary for the spirit Zarabanda to manifest and operate on earth. So your cauldron or your naga pot, it's gonna contain things like scorpions, a dead black mouse, a dead white mouse, bat blood, sulfur, cemetery dirt. I'm gonna go through some of them because you'll see the purpose of it. And as it said here, because it's that bridge or that gap, these are the potency and the power of these type of energies. They connect with these elements. So this is why I'm saying some of this stuff, when you correlate the elements to the spirit and to yourself, sometimes that may not be productive. And this is why I'm saying some people are told it's not really necessary for them to be initiated in Palo. Now, it doesn't mean you can't still work with the spirits, because I know many people over the years who attend regular Palo ceremonies and gatherings, they're just not scratched or initiated. So it don't mean you still can't participate on some level. It just means that initiation or being scratched or becoming a full-blown Palero just may not be your calling, okay? All right, so it said, let me continue on. The spiritual cauldron is the microscopic world and the doorway to another dimension. That's the purpose of your naga. So I want us to also understand when we have these implements and tools, they serve a purpose, not because they look nice, all right? It is believed that an individual cannot self-initiate themselves into the secrets and mysteries of Palo Mayombe. In the ancient customs of the African Congo, when an individual was initiated, he went into the bush by himself or with an elder and collected all of the elements necessary to create this powerful spiritual world. So if you go over to the Congo, where Benin, where all originated, how it's done here in America, obviously, is not the same way. They basically throw you in the bush, and some of the elements that I mentioned, you have to gather them yourself. So some of those animals you're responsible for capturing and killing yourself. You have to know a detailed history, especially if you're in the forest with this particular spirit. You have to know some of the herbs, some of the trees, the plants. This is all something. Again, it's a little bit different when you go into the Congo, obviously. It was done out of respect and veneration for the individual's ancestors, as well as for spiritual protection. The individuals who received this initiation believed that they would be empowered with special magical powers from the spiritual world. The custom of self-initiation changed when the Africans were brought to the New World. In order to regulate and create a hierarchy within the slave population, group initiations into Palo Mayombe were created. So in essence, originally, the individual was responsible for doing it themselves. So I want you to understand how it was done or is done in its original form and how it's varied when it's gotten, here. All right. Now, real quick, this is just the implements. There's 100 implements, and I'm going to run through them real fast. There's 100 implements alone for a Zarabanda cauldron. And this is just Zarabanda. I'm not going to read all the cauldrons when I go through the spirits, but I'm going to just read this one to show you, to confirm what I was saying a few minutes ago. If you think somebody online is going to do this shit for you and it's legit, you got to be out of your goddamn mind. You got to be completely foolish. All right. So here's some things that's needed. This is in traditional Palo Mayombe here in the States and the Caribbean. All right. One large iron cauldron, and they can be medium size to large and extremely large, just depending on what comes up, what you're marked for and what needs to be done and how big of the items you have to get. All right. Holy water, 8 large pure tobacco cigars, 1 large bottle of rum, Palo Amargo, Palo Vence Batala, Palo Gine, Palo Nomo. These are all the different Palo sticks. Palo Dolce, Palo Hueso, Palo Joban. I'm just going to skip through. I'm not going to read through all of them. Palo, all different forms of Palo till you get to 35, right? 35th item, 7 African Powers candle, 28 small black candles, 1 human skull. Yes, I said it right. 1 human skull. That is correct. Okay. 1 large round smooth stone, and that's usually something you have to go on the hunt for with your godparent. You'll find that's 1 large black obsidian arrowhead, dirt from 7 cemeteries. You got to get dirt from 7 different cemeteries. Okay, I want to make sure we're clear on that. Dirt from the crossroads, dirt from the mountains, dirt from the forest, dirt from a hospital, dirt from a prison, dirt from a courthouse, dirt from a backyard, dirt from a police station. 7 railroad spikes, 4 large machetes, 5 prepared cowie shells, cascarilla, 1 large bottle of white rum, 7 large black roosters. Yes, 7 black roosters are sacrificed for this cauldron. 7. Okay. So how is somebody going to make this for you when you need to be there when them 7 black roosters are, sacrificed for the cauldron of Zarabanda? You tell me. Human bones from the right hand. Yes, I said that right. Human bones from the left hand. Human bones from the right foot. Human bones from the left foot. Human bones from the left leg. And don't ask me where they get the stuff from, because I'm not even going to go into that. So don't even waste your time and energy. If you really want to know where that stuff comes from, then I suggest you traditionally get initiated. I ain't going to go into that. Human bones from the right leg. Human bones from the right arm. Human bones from the left arm. 9 dead scorpions. Bones from a black cat, bones from a black dog, 5 pounds of mercury, right? So somebody's going to mail you this shit, right? From the internet. Right now, this thing's weighing about 20 pounds already, okay? 9 dead centipedes, 9 dead millipedes, 1 dead horseshoe crab, 9 dead black widow spiders, 9 dead ticks, 9 dead chameleon lizards. Pay attention to the numbers. They do symbolize something. 9 dead black willow spiders, 9 dead ticks, 9 dead chameleon lizards, 9 dead Spanish flies, 9 dead mites. 9 dead mites, okay? 9 dead mosquitoes, 9 dead fleas, 9 dead red ants, 9 dead honeybees, 9 dead wasps, 9 dead grass frogs, 1 dead rattlesnake with rattle, 1 dead water moccasin, 9 dead bats, 9 dead termites, 1 dead raven, 1 head from a guinea hen, 9 dead hummingbirds, 1 dead large black rat, 1 dead large white rat, 1 dead black mouse, 1 dead white mouse. And then the last couple items, 4 large iron crossbows of Achosi, 7 large metal implements of Ogun, 9 mouse traps, 9 rat traps, 1 large blessed crucifix, 1 large metal chain, 1 large padlock with a key, and 9 skeleton keys. That's just 100 items for a Zarabanda pot. Now, I want to make this clear. There's no way somebody can mail that to you. Now, I've seen them small, medium. I've seen them large. It just depends. Some keep them in their house. If you're not able to keep them in your house, keep them. Usually a godparent will have a big outside shed where they can store naga pots of the godchild, because some are in that situation where they can't keep it at the house. That's a whole nother story. But we're going to focus on just the basics and give some of the essential information you would need to be familiar with this, right? These are the items that are needed to prepare the spiritual cauldron of the spirit Zarabanda. The average cost of the items, now this is out of date. I want to tell you this price here because this book was written in 94. This is not correct. The average cost of the items needed to construct a legitimate, authentic cauldron of Zarabanda can range from $3,500 to $4,500. I'm going to say now it's about $5,000 to $7,000. You got clowns on the internet charging $1,000 to $2,000. Now, can't you see somebody's trying to get a quick hit and take your money? If somebody's telling you they can make you a cauldron for a Palo spirit for $1,000 to $2,000, they're just gonna put some bullshit in there to you and sell it to you. All right, and this is why it's important to be educated on a spiritual system like this that's really passed down from mouth to ear, because you really don't have nothing to gauge it to, right? Whereas most other systems, you can find books and a lot of information that's very easily accessible. Unfortunately, this is one of them systems where it's not. So This is why you got the hustlers who know this, and they figure they got somebody that's so desperate that wants to be involved on some level and wants a naga pot so bad. So they say, yeah, I can make you one for $2,000. And who knows what the fuck they're putting in it. So don't fall for that hustle. All right. If another Polaro is constructing your spiritual cauldron, you must be extremely cautious. Okay. And make sure that he is legitimate and has a good reputation within the Palo Mayombe community. That's why I was saying in the beginning of the video, if you are interested in going the traditional route for whatever reason, because you want to, or because you want the experience, that's the challenging part, finding a house where you're not getting conned or hustled. Now, again, I'm not saying there are some good, sincere, practicing Polaros out there, but you might have to go on a mission to find one of them. All right. Because unfortunately, if some of them see that you're extremely desperate or you're extremely, naive, they're going to take you to the cleaners if they're a hustler or a con person. All right. I have seen many individuals initiated into Palo Mayombe whose spiritual cauldrons contain nothing but unconsecrated rocks, sticks, and commercial potting plant soils. If a spiritual cauldron is prepared in the incorrect manner, it will be detrimental to the individual's success, happiness, health, and spiritual success. The cost to dismantle a spiritual cauldron that has been prepared incorrectly sometimes is more than the cost to put one together. All right. I've seen this. I've actually worked with somebody that comes in here regularly. I ain't going to say his name because he got into some serious shit, got very ill, and work had to be done to dismantle it and get rid of it. And that could be just as much work as putting it together, because when somebody's hustling you and takes you for your money and find out that they put shit in there to control you and to keep getting you sick, to keep coming back to them. Yes, that shit can happen. Thinking that you're doing something, your intent is good because you want to grow and you want to be on the path spiritually. But once you open yourselves up to individuals that you're weaker to, they can start going to work on you from a spiritual perspective and kind of make you dependent on them. So this is what this is also referring to in a non-direct way. You need to be careful with that. All right. The formula in the following initiation method has been used with great success and has produced extremely powerful magical results for the individuals initiated into Montegro Casa de los Espíritus. Now, he's saying his house, okay? That's the formula they've been following. I want to make this clear. That's why I was saying in the beginning, it might vary from house to house. Now, he's making it clear at the end that in his house, they've stuck to this formula for Zarabanda and have not deviated from it and have had success. So having said that, I want to follow this up with this. Is every other house going to use exactly all of those implements in that abundance or less? No. Will they use the core ones and majority of them be similar? Yes. So I want to make that clear. And this is why you'll find in a few books, and Carlos Montenegro hasn't put out a lot of books, but you'll find he always makes it clear that he's talking in reference to his experience in his house. That's the only way you can on this path. You can't talk about, that's why I'm saying you can't, it's not widespread and universal like a lot of other spiritual systems, because some houses are going to vary and again, I'm talking from the traditional aspect. Some houses are going to vary when it comes to things like this. So he's making it clear because this is the only thing he can speak on, because this is the house that he belongs to. So you might see a little of a variation in other house, but in essence, you're going to see the foundation of it is pretty much the same. All right. Then I'm going to skip. It goes into it's a several day initiation. A lot of this stuff is done at midnight, the witching hours. A lot of the initiations you go through that you're going to go through leading up to being fully scratched and initiated, they're usually done at the midnight hours. You're going to find there's a lot of black magic elements. Now, I myself, even though at that time when I was dealing with Palo, I quote unquote wasn't fully on black magical practices or adept of the black art practices that I am now. But it's one thing that inspired me to come to the path that I'm on now, because I saw that Apollo always attracted me because of that. I always had an attraction for those dark spirits of the dead, etc. It just intrigued me. And I followed that intuition, but did it the right way traditionally. and then kind of led me to where I'm at now. So you will find, if you do practice black magic, you will find it is a black magical art form, but from the essence of a West African spiritual system. It basically is African witchcraft and black magic. All right, so I want to make that clear. All right, you'll see there are some of the chants in there. It has the, after the Nagapad is put together, how it's actually consecrated and blessed. I'm not going to go through all that. That's Zarabanda. Let's go to the next spirit. All right. There's also some ritual cleansing baths in this book you can do. If you, because what I'm going to show you is towards the end, the best way to work with these as a non-initiate is to use the implements, the sigils. The sigils are probably the most powerful way to work with these spirits, and leave basic offerings there for particular workings that you're doing with each spirit. That's the best way for a non-initiate that's not dealing with the blood sacrifice, etc., to work with it. The firmas or the sigils are the best way. And utilizing some of the chants in the Palo language are the best way. Now, I would also caution you to, read and study when you're invoking, because you are invoking this type of spirit to you in some shape, form, or fashion. All right. The next one you'll see called in Palo El Cristo Negro, the Black Christ, right? Not what you think it is, though. Not like Jesus Christ. All right. And I know a couple of people that have this spirit in this cauldron. Very interesting spirit. It actually has its roots in Mexico, but we're going to talk about it a little bit. The initiation ceremony of El Cristo Negro is common in Central America as well as in Mexico. El Cristo Negro is Lord and King of the underworld. There's a very similar spirit to Anpu or Anubis. Pay attention. And the reason why I like to do this too, no matter what system I'm talking about, I want to make sure as you guys are listening and following along or watching these videos later again, always in your mind, compare them with other archetypes and other systems that they're synchronized with. That's very important, because on this path, since we are so versatile and we incorporate a multitude of spiritual systems, it'll spark some ideas of creativity of how you can connect and work. So pay attention to that. All spirits of Palo Mayombe must bow down before him, meaning El Cristo Negro. The mysteries of El Cristo Negro are received in a very intense 3-day ceremony. This is one of the most powerful initiations that can be received by an individual who has been initiated into Palo Mayombe or black magic. Specifically says black magic there. That's why he's called El Cristo Negro, he's the great black magician of Palo, right? Unique individuals is all I can say of taking this initiation. That's the best thing I can tell you on that. The secrets and power of El Cristo are received inside of a large black ceramic pot. He is symbolized by black roosters and also crows. The collars, or the aleques, of El Cristo Negro consist of 3 black beads, 1 silver bead, and 3 clear beads. This initiation ceremony can only be performed once a year, starting 3 days before Easter. Now, the reason why Easter and Holy Week, and that's El Cristo Negro, the reason why Easter and Holy Week you'll find is prominent in Palo initiations. Here's the symbolicism. Here's a little jewel for you that they don't really talk about. They say that the time, and this is symbolic because they say it's the most darkest and intense spiritual hours, when so-called, and again, I'm just telling you in the tradition. Am I saying that I fully advocate and believe this? No, but I see the symbolism from it. And when we're working with our subjective, I can understand. They say when Christ gave up the ghost on Good Friday, right, at the 3 o'clock hour. And that's why I said, pay attention to the numbers that were in the pots, 3, 9, they all symbolize something. They say from Friday, 3 o'clock till Easter are the darkest hours to work black magic, because quote unquote, God is absent from the earth, right? It's a symbolicism if you follow that. So God has left the earth. The presence of God is obsolete from the earth. Now, again, this is symbolic. You can get into all the questions. I'm just telling you how it's taught. So that's why this initiation is only done once a year at that time. Now, it doesn't tell you that here in the book, but I'm telling you that's why it's done 1 year at that particular time, because of the symbolisms that are connected with the actual ritual. All right. So there's also a lot of solar and lunar connection to this, because they do utilize planetary hours, movement of the sun and the moon. So there is a lot of connection there. So I just want to be clear on that. All right. The next one, La Espiritus Intranquilios, the intranquil spirit, right? Of the seven, this is one of the seven intranquil spirits, are used in many rituals and spells common in Mexican and Central American witchcraft. The ceremony in which an individual is initiated into the mysteries of the seven intranquil spirits take place over the period of 7 nights. The mysteries and secrets are received in a large black, blue, and purple colored ceramic pot. When an individual receives the mysteries of the seven intranquil spirits, they will be empowered to work with very strong cemetery spirits who can assist in black magic spells. So not everything is in a cauldron, okay, or a pot, right, or a naga pot. You do get stuff in ceramic pot. It depends on the spirit. So that's another myth. All right. So we'll make sure we're catching that. The collars of the seven intranquil spirits consist of 7 multicolored beads, 1 large black onyx bead. This initiation ceremony usually takes place during the start of the new or the full moon. There's the lunar influence, right? Look at the next one. And this is my introduction, why I'm so big on this now, right? And this book was written in 94. And I first came in contact with that spirit, even though I wasn't into it fully then in the late 90s. Look at one of the spirits. I don't know if you can see that. In Palo is, I don't know if you can see it. Well, maybe you can't because of light. Santissima Muerte. Yes, I said it right. The Holy Death. The Holy Death is a Palo Mayombe spirit, which most people didn't know. I don't really talk about it openly, but that was my first introduction to Santissima Muerte. There is a whole Palo initiation for Santissima Muerte, the Holy Death. And a lot of people aren't familiar with that. And let's go through this one. And this was my first introduction to that. And then a few years later down the road, as I mentioned once before in a video, I was actually in a flea market in the 90s, mid to late 90s. And there was a Mexican lady who had a whole store of stuff, Mexican witchcraft. She had statues of saints. I mean, there was a lot of Catholic looking stuff on the surface. And then she had all these different statues of the Holy Death. That was my first ever encounter in it. Just randomly walking through a flea market and walking in there. And I just started talking to her and, so and such and such. And then a couple years later, running into it in the Palo Mayombe system, right? So here's the initiation ceremony of Santissima Muerte in Palo, this Palo Mayombe aspect. And this is why, if you hear me say on videos for the last couple of years, why I only work with the black aspect of it, because that's the dark aspect. Not knocking the others. Yes, I know they have the rainbow aspect because that deals with different spiritual methodologies, the white aspect of Santissima Muerte. They even have a red one now. I don't mess with any of that stuff. I strictly work with the pure death, the black, because the black can be used on any, you work in black magic on any shape, form, or fashion. It can be used on any level. And the book we went over, I can't remember his name, on the Holy Death. He gets into that. It'll come back to me. You've heard me talk about it, but I'm drawing a blank now. All right, but anyway, one of the most beautiful initiation ceremonies is that of the Santissima Muerte. This lengthy ceremony lasts for 7 days and nights. Okay, so how can somebody make this pot for you, right, and mail it to you, and you didn't go through the 7-day ceremony? I'm saying if you want to go through it traditionally. Now, can you make pots? Here's another thing. Can you make pots to a certain level for these spirits without the blood and the? Yes, you can, but they're going to hold a certain significance. Like I make mojo bags, cauldrons, and pots for the voodoo and these Congo spirits, minus the blood and sacrifice. I'll use graveyard dust, different powders, tools. You can buy tool bags in some of these supply shops to carry the tools of these spirits. You can consecrate them yourself, but you're utilizing them a certain way. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So yes, can a non-initiate or somebody that's not fully participating in the whole traditional aspect of it anymore, such as myself, continue to work with it? Yes. But now I can do it at my own, on my own level and the way I want to do it. And I was never, not that it, that I won't say I had a problem with it. I just never saw, I really wasn't into the whole animal sacrifice thing. Not because I'm a vegan or anything like that. That's not, it just, I don't know. To me, it never really fully, I understood the reasoning for it and how they explain what purpose the animal sacrifice serves. I get all that. I still didn't feel the connection or the necessity for it. That's just me. You understand? But yeah, you can still work with it. All right. So 7 days and 7 nights. This ceremony is equivalent to the initiation ceremony in the Santeria religion called making the saint or getting crowned in Santeria. It's the same. It's that long. It's a 7-day. The ritual initiation ceremony comes from the Veracruz region of Mexico. The Santísima Muerte is the goddess of the cemetery and of death. Her powers or historical origin can be traced back to pre-Aztec era. Remember, the origin of Santísima Muerte comes from the Aztec goddess of the underworld. Okay? That's the original origin of it. And if you even go to Mexico today, some of the traditional people in Mexico that use this spiritual system, they actually get offended by the Catholic aspect of it. There actually is a movement in Mexico that to this day as we speak that are trying to eliminate all that because they feel that some of the Catholicism aspect has watered it down. Because most people that practice it in America on the surface have some Catholicism influence in it. Now, I look at it both ways, okay? When you look at it as an adept from the black arts and you're using the power of your subjective, that symbol can represent whatever you want it to represent. To me, it's a matter of preference, whatever makes you more comfortable, because you're going to find out whether it's Palo, whether it's voodoo or voodoo or hoodoo. You're going to see a lot of Catholic imagery still used. You understand? So I think that is in the power of the eye of the beholder. Whatever one you feel more comfortable, you understand? That's entirely up to you. So know your preference. I think getting caught up in that is irrelevant. I know some people are going to say, well, why? And I've even mentioned it. Why still work with, European Catholic aspects of it? Some say that the spirit has, for so many years, even since them times of slavery, has been connected with that vessel that they're kind of, they get accustomed to it. I don't know if there's any truth to that. I don't really think there is, because we have to eliminate all that way of thinking as an adept to the black arts. The power is in us, in the eye of us. We are the adept. Remember, on this path, the adept is at the center of everything. They are the God. They are in control. So I don't care if you're using Papa Smurf, you understand, as a symbol and dress it up. If that, whatever that represents to you, that's what it represents to you. Now, I'm not telling you to go get fucking Papa Smurf and put him on your altar. I'm just trying to make a point. But that's how you got to look at that. So there's going to be that back and forth traditional shit. You understand what I'm saying? All right. So we see Santísima Muerte goes back to the Aztec goddess of the underworld. That's her origin. Santísima Muerte is the chief spiritual force used by Mexican spiritualists and witches for a variety of different types of magical works. The initiates of the Santísima Muerte are usually single, as the Santísima Muerte is an extremely jealous spirit. That's one thing you will find true in the traditional. Most people that are initiated with that spirit are single. And it's a very, very possessing, controlling spirit. Those that have worked with it understand that. All right. Okay. The mysteries of the Santísima Muerte are received inside of a large gold, black, and red ceramic pot. Here we got another pot, not a cauldron. The Santísima Muerte and El Cristo Negro work well together. Why? Because one is a communicator from the underworld that connects the dead to the living. Sounds like you can synchronize that with Ampu. You can synchronize that with Papa Legba or maybe Kafu, which is more of an aggressive aspect of Papa Legba, which deals with destructive black magic. I want to make that clear. Destructive. And some people literally have to go through rituals to get Kafu removed from them when they start working with him and fucking with it when they shouldn't have done it in the first place. So that's a whole nother story for another sit down. The Santísima, they work well together, and usually the spirits will require an individual to receive both of them. So it's not uncommon if you receive Santísima Muerte that you have to receive El Cristo Negro also. The collars of Santísima Muerte consist of 7 red beads, 7 clear beads, and 7 black beads. I have solid all black on the work that I've done in Santísima Muerte. There's a reason for that. All right. The next Palo spirit, San Simon, right? And then briefly, when you get into like Palo Manto, you're going to see the ones that are more synchronized with the Orishi, like Santaral, Lucero. You'll see Zarabanda's in there also, but we'll go through that in a little bit. Mama Cholo, all of those spirits, that's Palo Mante, right? And people sometimes confuse that. Palo Mayombe, some will say in a nutshell, are the Palo aspects of the Orisha. And I'm going to go through some of them briefly. I'm going to get into a lot of that. Maybe I'll do a whole separate class on Palo Mayombe. But sometimes I see for people that are uneducated on Palo itself, they kind of mix Mante with Mayombe, right? And Umbanda, we haven't even talked about Palo Umbanda, which that's a whole, I'm not even going to touch on that tonight because that's a whole nother beast. So the reason why I wanted to do this, I wanted to be clear on the spirits of Palo Mayombe as opposed to the spirits of Palo Mayombe, because I see them getting mixed up all the time for people that are not, quote unquote, knowledgeable of this topic, all right? San Simon is a very powerful spiritual force in the world of Palo Mayombe and Central American black magic. There's that term black magic again. I told you this is a form of black magic. Palo Mayombe is a form of black magic. San Simon is the keeper of the laws of the divine justice. Who's that sound like in ancient Egypt, right? Sounds like a darker aspect of Tahuti, right? The ritual and initiation of the mysteries of San Simon originated in the Bluefield regions of Nicaragua. See, there's a part of Latin America we don't talk about where a lot of black magic and witchcraft is practiced on a hardcore level. There's a lot of sacred sciences in Central America, right? We don't really talk about it. We always hear about the Caribbean. We always hear about Latin America. But a lot of these have their origin, these African spiritual traditions, before they came to Latin America, the Caribbean, and here in America. A lot of them made this stop and have a strong connection to Central America. It's not really talked about that much, though. All right. San Simon's initiation ceremony takes place for 3 nights, and it includes a very large fiesta in honor of his extremely powerful spirit. When an individual becomes a priest or priestess to the powers of San Simon, they receive the power, knowledge, and secrets to divine justice. The mysteries of San Simon are received inside of a medium-sized black and white ceramic pot. There's another pot. The collars of San Simon consist of 3 black beads and 3 white beads. Many priests initiated into the mysteries of San Simon also have a medium-sized iron cauldron that is said to contain the heart of the dark side of this powerful spirit. Okay? San Simon is the most powerful spirit that a Central American black magician can be initiated into also. This ceremony also gives an individual the power of invisibility from the law. This initiation ceremony is rarely performed outside of the Central American region, and there are very few individuals in the United States of Europe who have received it. There's not a lot of popular houses here in America you'll find that spirit has been given to. Not saying it doesn't exist. I personally don't particularly know anyone that I've been contacted that received that particular spirit. All right, the next one. El Cristo Rey. El Cristo Rey, R-E-Y, is Lord of the world. He is the direct contact between man and God. Who is this synchronized with? He is associated. El Cristo Rey also, which I find you can also in Sanse, Puerto Rican El Spiritism, right? Or Puerto Rican Voodoo. You see El Cristo Rey in there. He's a high spirit in Puerto Rican Voodoo. You see him also in the 21 divisions. Because remember, in Sanse and the 21 divisions, you have, now remember, the 21 divisions or the 21 nations, as they say in Voodoo or Voodoo, it doesn't mean there's 21 spirits. I want to clarify this. There's 21 hierarchies of those spirits, and they are all broken down. Each one of those nations or divisions is broken down into a conglomeration of different spirits. There's hundreds of them, okay? I just want to make this clear because some people think, they say, I work with the 21 nations of Voodoo, right? It's not 21 spirits. Like, for an example, I have an altar set up with the 21, which I actually just finished working on, with the how you can work with it as a non-initiated is the colors of each one of those spirits. I'll get into that a whole nother time. But what I'm trying to say, make clear is you'll see the synchronization. Like, for an example, this is to show you that these systems are connected, but yet slightly different. All right. What I mean by that is here you find El Cristo Rey here in Palo. You find El Cristo Rey in Sanse, Puerto Rican Voodoo. You find El Cristo Rey in the 21 divisions, which is traditionally a Dominican Voodoo system, right? And you also find an aspect of him as Dambeloido in Voodoo, right? You see? So what I'm trying to say is as cultures adopted to these spirits and different systems. Now in Sanse 21 divisions, like Sanse, they don't use animal sacrifice, period. 21 divisions, when they work with the Negada division or what they call the black or the very volatile petro spirits, they do on some level. But it's used very minimal or next to none in those spiritual systems. I did a video on that a few weeks back, going through some of the divisions, the Blanca, the Negra, and the Indio. The Indio, it's a whole. Now, I find it also in Sanse and Puerto Rican voodoo. They even have a whole hierarchy of Arab spirits, believe it or not. Yes, I said it right. Arab spirits. They work with Arab, where there's elaborate ceremonies to be initiated with these Arab spirits. And my godmother in Ifa, who is Puerto Rican, came through a lot of that Indio spirits and Arab spirit stuff. And she, on her spiritual altar in her room, with her whole room that she has set up, she has stuff set up for Arab spirits and Indian spirits, etc. So yeah, there is a connection there. But anyway, I just wanted to show you how you can see this one spirit synchronized in five different systems, right? All right. The ceremony gives an individual great healing powers, telepathy, and the power to work with the white light spirits. The mysteries of El Cristo Rey are received inside a large white, gold, and red colored ceramic pot. Okay, I think I already went through this. Oh, no, I didn't. The collars of El Cristo Rey consist of 7 white beads, 1 gold bead, 7 red beads. The initiation ceremony has also been known to heal terminally ill individuals. All right. The next one, we got just a couple more. You will see the Palo. Yeah, definitely want to go through the Mama Cholo aspect of Palo, which would be Oshun. And actually, Mama Cholo is the one that came down and marked me at a gathering. An individual that was initiated into the mysteries of Mama Cholo. Mama Cholo was the one that marked me, Zarabanda. And even in my Ifa, I have a cross, even though Oshun rules the head, Ogun rules the body. And that actually carried over into Palo, believe it or not. All right, anyway. All right, let's get through the rest of these because I want to get through the core of them. We're almost there. Madre de la Luna, right? The Madre de la Luna is the goddess of the moon. Here's this lunar connection again. And of Los Brujos de las Noches, witches of the night, she is most identified in Mexican witchcraft as Nuestra Señora de la Luna. The initiation ceremony of the Madre de la Luna takes place in the field at night. This initiation ceremony never takes place unless there is a full moon. The initiation ceremony is performed in many remote parts of Mexico by Mexican witches. During the initiation, the initiate received a sacred knife which contains the power to the mysteries of Madre de la Luna. This sacred knife is a powerful amulet for performing love spells. Without this knife, an individual is consecrated into the mysteries of Madre de la Luna is powerless without this. The collars consist of pure quartz crystal beads with 1 crystal skull. She is sometimes identified as an owl by her initiates. Okay. Some synchronizers, like in Monte, very close. On different levels, depending on obviously what house you went through or go through. Some also connect this to working also with spirits of the dead on a whole different level, though, or the dead. Now, Madre de Agua, even in Palo Monte, you have a Madre de Agua spirit that's synonymous with Yemaya. And we're going to get into Mama Cholo, which you'll see similarities, right? The spirit Madre de Agua, and you'll see it in Sanse, and you'll see it in 21 divisions. The spirit Madre de Agua is one of the most powerful spirits in traditional Palo Mayombe. You will also see it in Voodoo and Hoodoo, the 7 African powers, right? 7 African powers, and when you go through in Voodoo and Hoodoo, remember Papa Legba, you have this aspect of Yemaya, you have Ogum, right? Which is the aspect of Zarabanda. Obatala, which is Dambela Weirdo, which is getting into a whole. So the 7 African powers, how they work, and that's the 7 African powers that I work with when I'm working black magic, or the voodoo aspect of it. And I have something consecrated just for that. And the good thing you can do with that is you can make, they make 7 African power dust or powder. You can dress your candles with it. You can use it for mojo bags. You can mix that with graveyard dust. I'm in the process now of making a mojo bag for Papa Legba, which is half black, half red. And it has some of his implements in there with some graveyard dust and some of his tools, black and red beads, etc. I'm not going to get into the whole essence of it, but there is ways, as somebody that's working with the power and the spirit, you can create your own spiritual implements. So what I mean is when you go, how can a non-initiate, or not just a non-initiate, somebody that doesn't work the traditional systems anymore, work with this? Very simple. As long as you educate yourself to the implements and the spiritual tools and the knowledge, you now as a black magician can come up with methods and systems to work, because you're using things that are in line and in sequence and synchronized with these spirits. That's how you do it. It's that simple. So you're still following, in essence, the protocol, but minus the rules, regulations, and restrictions, and with somebody telling you what you can and cannot do. You understand? All right. So Madre de Agua. And the mojo bags are powerful if you know how to make them. And mojo bags can be used for a multitude of reasons. If you're working with the spirit and you want to really carry the essence and energy of that particular spirit, it's a good thing to do, whether you're carrying it on you. Some like to use those mojo bags and the implements they have in them for other reasons, which I'm not going to talk about tonight. But anyway, the spirit Madre de Agua is one of the most powerful spirits in traditional Palo Mayombe. I know a lot of people, this seems to be a very common or popular spirit. I know a lot of people that have been scratched with Madre de Agua. The mysteries of Madre de Agua are received in an initiation ceremony inside the traditional Santeria sopra. It kind of looks like Yemaya's pot. When they say sopra, it's more of a decorative ceramic pot. It's very decorative. It looks it's not traditionally round. It could look kind of oval, kind of could look like a genie vase. It's got handles, and it's got the colors of the implements of the spirits. And it does kind of look like a Ifa pot. Many Paleros say that with Madre de Agua, you can have anyone you desire as a lover. The Madre de Agua is also used in other powerful magical works. The collars of Madre de Agua consist of 7 multicolored beads, 2 clear beads, 1 coral-colored bead, and 3 blue beads. All right, that's Madre de Agua. This one is an interesting one here. La Santísima Piedra Imán is a powerful spirit in traditional Palo Mayombe. The powers of this spirit are used in both black and white magic. The spirit is used to attract money and wealth. The spirit is used by many businessmen in Latin America to achieve tremendous wealth and prosperity. The mysteries of this spirit are received inside a large ceramic pot. The collars of this spirit consist of 3 green beads, 3 clear beads, and 3 black beads. All right, I'm trying to get through the rest of this. The next one, Francisco de los Siete Rayos, or Siete Rayos. Some in Palo Monte, they closely associate this with Shango, right? The initiation ceremony of the spirit, Francisco de los Siete Rayos, Francisco of the 7 rays, also found in 21 divisions, and Sanse. Sanse also has the 7 Jefe, right? Or Jefe, the bosses, right? The big boss. They are also very similar to the 7 African powers. This is what the reason why I'm going through this, because regardless of what spiritual system, I want you to see the similarities. Again, I want to make this clear. Though they are similar, the operation of them they vary a bit according to the tradition. All right. Is one of the most ancient and traditional ceremonies in Caribbean Palo Mayombe. The mysteries and secrets of this powerful spirit who rules the 4 winds are received in either an iron cauldron or a large, deep terracotta bowl. Now, this price is off because this is 1994. The cost of this initiation ranges from $2,500 to $3,500. No, I want to say it's about 5 to 7 now. All right. Mama Chola, and this is Oshun, or in Palo Monte. The powerful female spirit is used in spells of love and fertility. This is one of the traditional spirits received in the practice of Palo Mayombe from the Caribbean. This ceremony is not common in Central American nor Brazilian Kumbanda. This is a very popular ceremony you'll find in places like Miami, New York, the Caribbean. The cost of this initiation ceremony, this is wrong, $1,500 to $2,500. I'm going to double that. All right. Now, that's your main spirits in Palo Mayombe. Now, the last thing I want to discuss is you can actually do this, but I'd be careful of doing this. On page, you can adjust this, and actually this is something we're going to tackle. We've done it once before. The way to conduct a a spiritual misa or spiritual communication with the Palo spirits. I'm not going to get into that in depth, but it is on page 35 to like 40. I will go over this another time with how you can alter and change this, because there are some things in here you will not be able to do. All right. There is some religious overtones to it that I would suggest that you change. Like, for an example, real quick, the spiritual misa of Palo Mayombe is the most important part of the Palo Mayombe religion. And then when I was saying earlier about gatherings, you don't have to be initiated to attend a Palo Mayombe misa. Anyone can attend that, and that's what I was referring to earlier. That's the best place to go and start to find out more in reference to yourself. If there's spirits connected to you, if you're marked, etc., it would usually happen at a function like this. All right. The spiritual misa of Palo Mayombe is the most important part of the Palo Mayombe religion. It is through a misa that you will be able to communicate directly with the spirits of Palo Mayombe. It is also through your first Palo Mayombe misa that the names of many of your ancestor spirits will be revealed. All right. There are other types of misas in Santeria, but the misa of Palo Mayombe should only be done alone or with other initiates of Palo Mayombe. So there's a way you can do it by yourself, and there's a way you can do it in a group. Okay. By having these frequent meetings with your spirits, the bond between the two of you will grow stronger. During a misa, many strange, that's a polite way to describe it, supernatural events and visions may take place. That's a very polite way to, that's funny. Look, you see some crazy shit at these things. I ain't going to lie to you. I've experienced it myself, seen others, acts of superhuman strength, literally. Speaking in languages that you have no clue. When people are fully mounted by the spirit, they will walk up to other individuals, not even know them, and be able to tell them a bunch of things about themselves, or things that happened in the past, or things that are getting ready to happen. Particular spirits that are connected to that individual will come through and communicate by means of that particular Palo spirit for that individual. But I've seen some crazy shit. So that's a polite way to put it. It's kind of funny, though. Do not be alarmed of these events. Do not be alarmed. It is only the spirits revealing their power to you. I've seen it literally, some people I've never, they you may not see them again. It's not, what I'm trying to say is not for everybody. And again, it's not being said to scare people, but it is something you need to brace yourself for, depending on the intensity of what you experience. And it could range. I've been at misas where they can be kind of medium to low key. Or they can be very aggressive, violent by nature. Not that they're physically going to harm you, but very aggressive. All right. So here's just some basic understanding of it. How to conduct a Palo Mayombe misa. Now, please, I don't want you people doing this shit, and I don't want to see you in a psych ward after you do it. Draw a large circle of cascarilla around an area to the ground. The circle must be large enough so you can place a chair in the center of the circle, because people always pull in the center. Place 13 red candles around the circle and light the candles. So you're drawing a huge circle, 13 candles where you can spread them out evenly around the circle. They have to be red. Notice they're red. What do we say on this path? Red and black. Red deals with the passion. The red candles draw the spirits to the circle, right? Place the spiritual cauldron into the circle. Place a chair inside the circle facing the spiritual cauldron. Because remember, the cauldron represents the gateway or the porthole from the spirit world, from here to the spirit world, so the spirit can come through. That's what these pots and these cauldrons, that's their function and purpose, okay? I'm almost done, then I'm going to go through I'll take some questions and comments. I'll start from the beginning. It says, tap the ground in front of the spiritual cauldron 3 times. There's that 3 times thing. You'll find this also in ancestral worship 3 times. 3 is a very sacred number. Why? 3 deals with always the gatekeeper, the opener, right? Deals with in multiples of 3, whether it's Papa Legua, Ishu, Ilegua, Lucero, it doesn't matter what system, whoever is the gatekeeper or the road opener, he's always propagated by 3 taps or knocks. I find it funny, too, in the Masonic Lodge, it's the same thing on the door. As you go through the degrees, the Master Mason, the 3 knocks. It's all symbolic. All right. Uncover the cauldron. Light a cigar and blow the smoke directly into the cauldron. We're going to be doing something similar with Papa Legba, with the Voodoo aspect on the 31st. Take a mouthful of the white rum and spray it directly into the cauldron. Salute the spirit by crossing your hands and slaying the initiation prayer. And it's an Egyptian salute, right? You see this in Egypt? This is also how they salute the spirit, right? Just like this. Left hand on the chest, right hand over, right? And then there's some prayers, which I'm not going to get into. I'm going to skip the prayers. I'm just going to give you the basic format, skipping all the prayers. So there's a couple of prayers that are done. When you're done with the prayers, the spirits will speak to you through visions, and sometimes you will be even able to see and hear the spirits. The spiritual Palo Mayombe Misa should be done on a weekly basis. It may take some time before the spirits have enough of confidence and to reveal their mysteries. When they do, it will change your life forever. And then there's the closing aspect to close out. The saluting the sacred rituals and prayers to close out, and saluting the spirit is Arabanda. Just remember, that's a key spirit. It shows you the procedure and closing it out, etc. After you do those, after you go through the opening and the whole ritual and opening prayers, that's when you kind of just sit there and then shit just starts to pop off, literally. Those, if it's a group misa, those that are connected to the spirit on some level, stuff will start coming through. From just intuitive psychic messages where they'll just in their own consciousness, not possessed by a spirit, they'll be able to share information with you. But due to the drumming and other things that take place at these rituals, as they progress on, they get very intense. All right, so that pretty much covers there's a lot more, which obviously I'm not going to get into all this tonight because we'd be here for a while. After that, there's some rituals one can perform, initiates and non-initiates, spells and rituals that one can perform for initiates and some for non-initiates. So again, I would just suggest to the individual, if you do decide to work with this, be very smart or educated before you do. All right. So I think I covered the basis. So what I'm going to do now is scroll up, and if you have any questions or comments or something you want to add, feel free to type it in. If you haven't yet, I would suggest you go ahead and do it now. I'm going to go up to the top and go through some of your questions. All right. Let me get a sip of some water here. All right. All right. So peace to all in the room. If I didn't greet you, I know I probably didn't see everybody. So peace to everybody that came in the room. Anarchy Zed, Gypsy Goddess, Brother Dan, Smooth God, Andre. All right, let's see what we got here. First question. All right. Okay, Gypsy Goddess. Just got your car. All right. So we expect to see you soon. Stop fronting and making them excuses all the time. Be making them excuses, woman. Stop fronting. Let me stop. All right. What else we got? Okay, I think I answered. Anarchy Zed had asked something earlier about consultations, and not just for him, for anybody else that may have came in the room afterwards. No, you don't have to get to me personally to do it. For those that can't get to me physically, I do it in a private Google video hangout call, one-on-one. So if you have been asking yourself, how do I do it if you can't get to me personally, that's how I do it. Can be just as effective because whatever information you need is still going to come through and you're still going to be responsible for doing it yourself. So yes, that can be done regardless if you can get to me or not. All right. What else we got? Gypsy Goddess typed in. Hold on a second. This thing keeps jumping on me. All right. Literally the first time I'm going to learn about this specific subject, I got Caribbean roots, my ancestors triggering me through you because I haven't got to meet you yet in person yet. That's why I say you got to stop fronting, man. Be fronting. You're right around the corner. You fronting. So I'm like, oh, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it no more. Let me stop. But yeah, the Palo spirits would be considered, if you want, volatile, petro or fiery spirits, Congo spirits, Negra spirits, all those spiritual systems that have different names for them. And I'm sure everybody that has roots or connections to it are going to have some type of connection to it. But why I was stressing earlier that, again, Palo is not a thing you just get up and say, I want to be involved in Palo. You still can to a certain level, but you also might have to understand it might not be necessary for you to be initiated. So, yeah, everybody's going to have some type of connection to it for sure. All right. Okay, what else we got? You only typed in Centella and the Doki, another, yeah. The 9 or, yeah, that's in Voodoo. Again, you're going to see the synchronization of these spirits, these deities, just given different titles and names. Yeah, that's supposed to be a powerful aspect, which one would know as Oya. It's funny because I was just reading and doing something with that particular spirit. Funny you bring that up. Centella Nadoki. All right. What else we got? Anarchy said, is this like a form of voodoo? Yes and no, because you'll see some similarities in the practices. So it's not officially classified as what one would call voodoo. But they're similar in the sense that they both have their base and origin in West African spiritual systems. So yes, there are a lot of similarities. But technically, no, it wouldn't be called voodoo. But if you're looking at it from a perspective, you would be able to see a lot of similarities. And so in that sense, yes, you can say it's kind of a form of that. Yes, there is a connection. And Anarchy's Head sounds, yes, there is links. You're going to find a lot of people that are, because this is how I came across Palo Mayombe, was through Santeria, because a lot of people that are practice Santeria also practice Palo. So they definitely are connected. They work separately. But I guarantee if you have a house of Ifa/Santeria you belong to, like for an example, my godmother, she's a Palero and she's crowned Allegra. She is a high priest in the religion of Santeria, and she's a Palero in Palo. That's common. So so there is a lot of connections, because again, where those connections come in, when you store the history of it, with the Caribbean, from Africa to the Caribbean and Latin America to the United States. This is why I'm saying a lot of these systems, whether it's voodoo or voodoo and hoodoo, Palo Mayombe, Palo Monte, Sanse, 21 divisions, all these things are connected to a certain aspect, because you're going to see a lot of the deities in these, or a lot of the spirits and deities in these religions just have different titles and names based on the culture. So, yes, there's a connection with all of them. Gypsy God has typed in. Some are charlatans, from money to flat out telling women who don't know you got to go do some naked ritual hitting on you. Miami is rampant with real, you got Babalawo pimps, they trying to tell, bring females into their house and tell them that they need to get initiated and become their wife. That's what I'm trying to say. Unfortunately, again, as I said earlier, for those that are seeking the traditional route, because one, it may interest you, or something you may want to do. Again, be very careful and cautious, because unfortunately that does exist. But I also want to make it clear, having said that, I don't want to take away from some of the sincere. There are people that practice the spiritual path that are dedicated, that are sincere, and that really take it serious, and they're professional about it. Now, Why it's changed so drastically over the last 10 to 20 years is because the charlatans and the hustlers and the con people have now looked at the money aspect of it, because they see that there's a lot of very desperate and naive people that want to get involved in this, and they see it as an opportunity, unfortunately, to take these people to the cleaners. So now the next question you might ask, well, how do I know I'm getting ripped off? Well, I just went through a bunch of stuff how you can tell. So if somebody's trying to sell you a naga pot or a ceramic pot with the implements of the Palo spirits, it's kind of impossible. You see that now when we're not going through the initiation. If somebody is charging you ridiculous amounts of money and not putting in the elements, and I didn't even go through the pots of the other ones. I just gave you one pot just so you got a general idea. That's just giving you a rough general idea on the surface. That's it. So these are the methods that you can use to be aware of that somebody's not taking it to the cleaners. So unfortunately, you're going to have to do your due diligence, and you might have to search in several different locations. Personally, I'm glad I ain't got nothing to do with that bullshit no more, because I went through all that shit for years. And it's I ain't got time to be going under all that restriction and telling me what I can and cannot do. Oni types in Hoodoo, Voodoo, Ifa, Lukumi. I'm not sure what that was a reference to. Ismail El Bay says Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. Gypsy Goddess, that's cute. You're still in touch with your padrino. Yeah, my padrino Javier I still talk to. My godmother, my padrino Javier in Palo, I still talk to him. My godmother, I still communicate with her once in a while in Ifa. Yeah, I mean, you're always going to have that connection. I mean, I still respect it. I still have my implements. I still upkeep them, but not in all that extreme traditionally. Like, for an example, my warriors haven't been fed in a couple of years. I haven't sacrificed any blood or animals to my cauldron pot, just because I don't deal with that no more. I'll do the basics, like I keep a clear glass of water there. I'll spray it with rum, cigar smoke. You're supposed to every year with your cauldron sacrifice 3 black roosters to it. Your padrino or your madrina is supposed to come to your house, and then also go around the door to kind of, it's supposed to be a blessing and protection. You're supposed to do it right after the new year. This is the shit that I'm talking about. Now, if you're into the traditional thing, so you're supposed to get 3 roosters every year. They come to the house. They slaughter the animals by the door, do the protection thing over the door. The rooster's supposed to feed them every year. Now, if you believe in your mind that you have to do that they need the blood, et cetera, then they do, because you're giving it the power. But when you're dealing as a black adept more on the subjective, and you're still honoring it and reverencing it, because you're going to find, like, why I like to work with the voodoo hoodoo aspect of it. They don't deal hardly with any, pretty much next to no blood sacrifice, very rare. And you could work the spiritual system. It gives you more flexibility. You don't have all the rules, restrictions. You're not really officially required to go through any traditional initiation ceremony to an extent. It's kind of the same in 21 divisions. There's, as I said before, there's like baptism ceremonies, but not quote unquote these, long drawn out, elaborate initiation ceremonies that they have in Palo or Ifa. So I just want to be clear on that. If you're more into the traditional aspect of it, then yes, those things are required. But I haven't done that, for an example, with my cauldron. It's been several years now. But I still honor it, respect it, and I work with it, but, on a different level now. All right, what else we got? What else we got here? Andre Polk typing, yes, sir, the shit that goes onto the Naga ain't no joke. You can't fake make one, period. That's 100% true. And again, I know I've said it a couple times. I'll say it again. That's why if you got somebody on the internet telling you that they'll make you one for $1,000, I've seen this shit. It's fucking crazy. Yeah, there's somebody. I saw somebody offering to make one of these Naga pots for $1,200. No, there's just no way. Now, to somebody that's not educated, you don't even need to be initiated. To somebody that's just not educated, will fall for that, because I think some people get more caught up in having this thing I got this pot that makes me I'm a voodoo priestess, or I'm a witch, or I'm a dark mirror. They get caught up in more of the physical stuff and not doing their due diligence, and it goes deeper than that. Okay. Yeah. Only brings up a good thing. I've seen this too. Like for example, in Ifa, which I have my Lego and my Warriors, right? I've seen people selling shoes on the internet too, preparing a Legos for you. Now, how that goes, if you don't know, first and foremost, your Lego is designed personally for you, created specifically for you by your madrina or your padrino, right? You have a process and a hand in that. It has a specific path that's designed for you. So if somebody's creating an shoe for you, I always ask, when you've got your warrior and your cauldron pot, which shoe is your path? Is it Ishu Leroy? Which path is it? It's not just Ishu, because you're also told when you go through the initiation what specific path of a shoe that you're working with, right? So that's the other bullshit. So somebody can't prepare an Ishu for you and mail it to you. That's fucking comical. Because that's the first thing I'll ask somebody when they initiate is, okay, you got your Ishu. Now you're going to find this, if you even go in depth to getting crowned by a Babalao as opposed to a Padrino or a Madrina, they might require you to get a second set of warriors, because some of them don't accept warriors from a Madrina or a Padrino sometimes as being 100% legit. And some Babalawas require you to do another set of warriors that they give to you, because they feel that those warriors are coming directly from Olarum by way of the Ifa oracle. So that's a whole nother aspect. So there's no way, based on these systems, that anybody can give you or make you a fucking Ishu. That's hilarious. All right, what else we got? Good evening to Baffalicious Yummy. Gypsy Goddess. The one thing is for typical Americans to not be taught, but when you're from the islands and have Arabic too in you, but through bullshit and religion, usually Catholic, you know nothing of this. It's enough. Yeah. So, you're not going to be. Look, we all know when it comes to finding out knowledge and information like this, you got to be the one motivated to seek it out and find out for yourself. So, yeah, you're not going to get it mainstream. You ain't going to get this in the universities, schools, and learning centers. Again, all I can say is, if people watching this have experience in these systems, and now you're on this path of being a Black Adept, feel really fortunate. And I don't say in a religious way to be blessed, but feel blessed because now you have the knowledge and the power to come on a whole nother level. And those that are starting out, this would be my message. And this is why you'll hear us say, is initiation important? And the answer is yes and no. It just depends on what you want to know and what your experience is. I would tell you it's not what it's all cracked up to be, okay? If you're willing to go through it, like for an example, look, if you want to get crowned, be prepared to give up an entire year of your life. Because what I'm trying to tell you is you have to follow the rules and regulations. You don't have an option. Because if you don't follow the rules and regulations, you can be kicked out of a house. Yes, you can be completely kicked out, disconnected. Okay, so it's not like you can do it and say quarter of the way through, halfway through, I don't want to do this no more. You can, but then all your money just went out the window and you won't be, quote unquote, fully recognized. Because, for an example, when you make the saint or get crowned, all right, I want to be clear on this. A whole year of your life, you got to give up. Most of those initiations, you can't even look into a mirror for an entire year. Yes, I said you cannot look into a mirror for an entire year. Sometimes you're not, there's certain foods you won't be able to touch for that year-long period. And for most cases, yes, I said it right, you have to abstain from sexual intercourse. Okay? Yes, for an entire year. So, and that's just on the basic. And a lot of it depends on in Ifa or whatever, Orishi's being crowned upon your head. So if you're not willing to give up a year of your life and be under a strict regimen and criteria when it comes to that, then it's not for you. So I just want to make sure people ain't getting caught up with the shit on the surface. Oh, this looks so African, right? It looks so spiritual. It's work. It's discipline. And if you're not willing to go hardcore to the traditional methodology of it, it's not going to work, right? Andre Pogue, yeah, when I was talking about the weight of these pots, if somebody was making them online, he typed in earlier about 4 pounds. Next day, air UPS, right? Get out of here. Yes, sir. My grandmother was a Congolese palero and taught me a lot about Palo and the Pungo spirits. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, and that's common sense. I mean, come on, man. I mean, I've seen this. It's look, I actually know people that have gotten taken. I'm sure we all probably might know somebody that's gotten taken for thousands of dollars. And some of it wasn't their fault, unfortunately. Hey, I mean, it is what it is. And some of it was their fault because some people could have just asked. But I find that the people that jump the gun and do shit like that, it's because they're more interested in playing Palo or playing African or playing spiritual, whatever the fuck they're trying to do. They just want to get it to go tell somebody, oh, I got a Palo pot, whatever the fuck, right? And they were more wrapped up in that than more. Remember, a black adept, success in ritualistic working is their intent. If your intent is sincere, the outcome will always be in your favor. But when your intent is jacked the fuck up, what do you think is going to happen? And because those people's intent isn't sincere, they're looking to feed their ego and then use their ego and feed it to other people so their ego can be built up more. It usually backfires, unfortunately. So, yeah. Mandy, when I was talking about, and I know that was earlier when I was talking about the implements and the in the cauldron. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna have those ingredients at the supermarket, but that's fucking funny. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Look at some of the stuff that's just in the Zarabanda pot. All right, who's gonna get that shit online and mail it to you? Come on, man, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. Get the fuck out of here. Gypsy Goddess typed in. Mormons believe in those 3 days Christ wasn't fully gone. He went to the Americas like the native Aborigines. Yeah, and then they believe in Joseph Fielding and all. Let me get the fuck. That's some more bullshit. Yeah, the Mormons are fucking whack jobs. I've had some run-ins with them over the years. They're fucking comical. I used to look for them fuckers when I had nothing to do. I think I mentioned that last week. I was talking I don't know if it was on Heroes. Yeah, in my heyday when we were out smashing religious people. But yeah, but in specific ceremonies, not just in Palo, they also in Santeria, they find those the 3 highest days to work magic is quote unquote from Good Friday to Easter Sunday. It's a symbolic thing, but really it deals with solar and lunar worship. Because how many of those Palo spirits connected to the aspect of the sun and the moon? Right, and there's a synchronization with the planetary signs. There's numerology with numbers. So when you look at this from an esoterical aspect, it's opening a whole nother door. Now, as a black adept, that's the way you want to work with it, because you can still use the implements just like you do at your black magic altar. If you're working Luciferianism, if you're working vampirism, and you want to know something, vampirism is probably the closest quote unquote left-hand path system that's very similar to Palo as far as the spiritual aspect of it. So when you have that kind of under your belt and you're working that, it gives you creative ideas of now how you can work with Palo on a certain level, still follow the certain necessities and requirements in connecting with the spirits, but don't have to be full-blown Palero and deal with all the blood and the animal sacrificing. Because as I said before, if you don't like to bite heads off of chickens and drink chicken blood, it's not for you. Keep it real with you. You're going to drink some form of blood. I don't care what spirit it is. You're going to be dealing with blood on some level in any of those rituals or ceremonies. So I don't care what it is. And again, it's not like you have a choice. And when you go through these initiations, it's not like you're told. You understand, you don't find out till you actually go through. That's the purpose of an initiation. So some of it can be very overwhelming if you're not prepared for it. If you are familiar with it or you are strong-willed, then it may not affect you as bad. But I'm going to keep it 100 with you. And that's why I wanted to do this video tonight. Was for the last couple of years, off and on, I'll get emails about this all the time because we talk about it in the videos. You'll hear me talk about it here and there. It'll come up in questions, etc. And so I'll get emails like, yeah, I wanna, get initiated in Palo. I literally get emails like that, and I'm just like, and again, it's not their fault because the people that email me like that, they don't know no better. And I'm sitting there saying, no, that's not how this works. And it's not about it's not about if I think you should or should not be initiated in Palo. It ain't got shit to do with me. It's got to do with your DNA ancestors. If they say that it's something you should or should not do, that's all that matters. What does your DNA ancestors say? You understand? All right. Anyway. Gypsy Goddess, you tripping. I'm not even going to read that comment. But you got a car now. You better stop bullshitting. Finding these bullshit-ass excuses. Only types in, how about the fueler with the person lying down and gunpowder is placed on your back in 3 piles and set on fire. This Bokor did that for me years ago. It was hardcore. Yeah, you'll find with Ogun, again, there's initiations like that with the metal on the gun and the gunpowder. And it could be a near-death experience. All right, there's one. I can tell you one from experience: being put in the ground up to your neck, and snakes being put around you to test your. It's a fear test, for lack of a better word. So put yourself in that situation where you have nothing. Just your head is there. And you have to endure whatever goes on from that point. I'm not going to get into the depths of it. Only mentions that gunpowder thing. These are the types of initiations, let me rephrase that. These are the types of things that are part of these initiations. So I want to make that clear. But when you're just thinking, I want to play Palo today, let me get up, and I want to all of a sudden be a Polaro, it's deeper than that. And again, these things aren't being told to you tonight to scare you. That's not. I'm just keeping it 100 with you because I couldn't give a shit if you're scared or not. That's not the whole point of the video. The whole point of the video is to educate you and make you aware. So if you do seek out the traditional method, wherever you're located, whatever state, know what you're getting into. All right. So you've been told. Okay. Gypsy Goddess. So wow, my Mexican ex wouldn't want to talk of Santissima Muerte for nothing. I guess you got the devotees and the people who really fear her, even saying that name, he goes, I'm not invoking her. Well, it is powerful and intense. Santissima Muerte is a very demanding and possessive spirit. That's why even when you set up altars for her, it is always recommended to keep it separate. And I have shown here and there, I think I've shown in videos, you've seen I have a separate altar for Santissima Muerte. You shouldn't put that spirit with any other spirit. The reason why I want to make this clear, it's not a religious rule or regulation, because remember, when you're working with these spirits, you're connecting them and you're accessing a certain portion of your psyche. It can cause a lot of internal conflict. So when you mix Santissima Muerte, because it's that type of aggressive, possessive, when it says it's a jealous type of spirit, it can create conflict, mentally within the psyche. You don't want that. Now, as far as like you mentioned, your ex with it, he might have had some intense personal experiences with it. So it could be out of respect as opposed to fear. So yes, and that's why I always said, regardless of what methodology you're using, if your intent is sincere and you always approach the spirits and the ancestors, etc., with respect, you will never have a problem. But when you're doing it out of ego and you're doing it out of pride and you're doing it because you want to look cool and you're doing it because you want to play African, then it's going to backfire and blow up in your face. Trust me when I tell you. All right. Yeah, Amanda said they made a song, Freaks Come Out at Night. Yep. In reference to some comments earlier. Gypsy Goddess, bless his heart. I'm not trying to make fun of him, but I got no in for that. I guess that's a reference. to your ex. Like I said, stop bullshitting. You got a car. You be bullshitting. You need to be there on the 31st. Stop bullshitting. All right, what else we got? Intranquil spirits can destroy shit. Yes, they can. And you're probably familiar with this in a couple of different systems, the intranquil and the tranquil spirits. You can actually perform voodoo and black magic to send intranquil spirits to an individual. You can work magic to torture an individual and put them on an individual's head or psyche. And again, when you're doing work like that, and I'm going to keep it real with you, it is part of this path, you better be in the right. Okay, I want to make this clear. It goes back to intent. And you're going to have to give something for that. Nothing is free in this shit. And I'm not talking about money. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. You're going to have to give something. Put it that way. And you should only go to those extreme measures when you're in life-threatening danger. Okay, when you do it because you're trying to be spiteful or just get back revenge on somebody because you're jealous or you don't like a person and you're not justifiable in that cause and they didn't do anything to you to harm you, it's not a pretty thing that happens from that point forward. But when you, by all means, and your back is against the wall and you're being attacked and you're being threatened on a life-threatening level, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, or physically, you are in 100% right to use your power as a black magician to do whatever the fuck you need to do to fix that problem. And I know that's how I would approach it. But having respect for the spirits and the ancestors is understanding that principle. Remember, there's universal law and then there's physical man-made law. When we work with black magic and the spirits and we're leaving the physical realm and we're tapping into a multitude of aspects of our subjective realms where there's a whole different levels of principles that govern those realms, you better understand the difference between the two. Okay, how we govern on the physical is different when we're working this system on the subjective or the spiritual realm, quote unquote, for lack of a better word. And working with intranquil spirits applies to that methodology. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that. All right. Yeah, Oni says the godmother, Santissima Muerte. Let me tell you something. A few years ago when I reconnected, and probably just recently reconnected with that spirit, the last 3 to 4 years, I'm going to say, always had some type of connection, was always conscious of it, laid dormant for a while until 3-4 years ago. When I started, let me just give you an example. When I started working with Santissima Muerte to improve finances, overall quality of life, better living conditions, etc., you name it, because it's a roadway, pathway clearing deity, it can improve in all those areas. And the change, I'd be here doing a whole video just on the change and the results that has been wrong. I'm actually sitting in a product right now, where I'm sitting in a product of that change as I speak. That's how powerful that particular spirit is. And the respect factor, look, I don't say approach it. When I'm saying respect, I'm not talking about how somebody religious would, being all spooked out and scary. Remember, you're drawing that spirit, which is actually an aspect, it actually connects to you by way of your psyche. It is a part of you, but you're asking to be opened up to that part. So when you approach it with respect, if you and your intent is sincere, as I said earlier, that's going to steer you clear of the bullshit. It's that simple. And I keep telling people, the simpler you keep this shit, the easier it is. There's an old saying, you hear me say it all, less is more. When you approach it with that mentality, like for an example, the voodoo altar that I work with the spirits now, as I said, I'll set that up. I'll use, the bottles, the scarves or the handkerchiefs to represent the colors, the voves or the veves or the sigils, the infirmas for the palo. I'll work with all those implements, herbs, powders, creating mojo bags, but all connecting to the essence of that particular spirit. So when this is what a conjurer or a sorcerer or a witch or a warlock does, a black magician, they're able to bring together the elements. This is the work of the craft. This is not just, look, make this shit clear. This is not just something to do for fun, okay? yeah, everybody has their own lives, including me. Work, business. I do this for the love of it, simply because this is something that I just love doing. This, when I'm not doing providing and making the means by way of business to pay bills, this is what I do. And the little, as I mentioned the video a few days ago, the little that I do on the side and charge for, that's just because it takes from my personal time, and that's by my choice. That's why I choose to do that, because sometimes people mistake your kindness as a weakness. Now, I don't have the time. Some people might. I don't have the time where 24/7 I'm available at everybody's beck and need and call. But if I'm going to take blocks out of time out of my personal life, I just want to be compensated for the time. That's called being fair. So my thing is, it's like with myself or anybody else, anybody that works in the spiritual arena, it's your option to participate or not. I don't tell anybody or force anybody to get a consultation or reading or take any of my classes. You do that by your own free will. And it's your decision if you want to pay or not pay for them. But when it takes out a considerable time and it's going to take me away from other things that I have to depend on to make money, that's just common sense. And first of all, I just think people that don't want to invest a few simple dollars in their spirituality, then you're not serious about this shit. Point blank. I'm not talking about being ripped off and spending thousands of dollars on fake Naga pots. That's not what I'm talking about. And those that can attest, and some are in this room. We just finished the first session of classes, and people had asked for me to do them for a while, and I finally got around to doing them. And we just went through I think it was 7 weeks, 7 or 8 week block. And I took them through a whole, I'm not going to get into detail about it, but I took them, and each session was probably about 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours. And what I promise in those sessions simply is pushing you in the right direction. And I guarantee you when you're done, you're going to leave them. That's going to help you on a multitude of levels to motivate your ass to get shit done on your own. It's that simple. So this is how you stay away from the bullshit. And when the intent is, again, when your intent is sincere, you stay clear of the bullshit. That's all I got to say about that. All right. What else we got? Brother Jack, I don't know if he's still here. I know I see him up in here. Only I got graveyard dirt and a few rocks. Okay. Only I am Shango. Okay. Dana Bidlake typed in, got to watch out playing with spirits. They do play back. Yes. Wow. They do play back. Just saying hi. Yes. And that's a good point. Some of these spirits, and especially in this system, Papa Legba, for an example, you understand, can literally embarrass you to teach you a lesson. And if you can't laugh about it afterwards, you might not really understand the nature of the spirit. Some of these spirits work like that. They will, quote unquote, if you want to use the term, fuck with you. But it's done to see, again, some of them work with you to bring out the worst in you so they can bring out the best in you. Do you understand that? Some of them will also bring failure your way just to see if you can overcome and succeed. And that's called challenging yourself, bringing out, quote unquote, the God or the goddess within you. So I want to also make sure, and that's a good point, I want to also make sure when we're approaching this, we don't have a fluffy mentality. You should understand the energy you're working with. You should understand the possibilities and the capabilities that can occur. So if you approach this with some fluffy shit like, I'm gonna pray and give thanks and praise to the spirits, you're coming from a fluffy mentality. You understand? So that's what I meant earlier when I said you need to be educated and aware and have enough of information before you just go jump into it. And it doesn't mean you got to be, again, a full-blown scholar, but you should have the basics and the fundamentals down pat, just like anything, right? You can't go play a sport until you got the fundamentals down, right? You can't play baseball until your swing is right and you're able to connect and hit the ball. You got to have your mechanics down to swing the bat, right? You can't go out in the field until you have your fielding skills up to par, your hand coordination, your release point if you're a pitcher. These are all tools and sciences and mechanics. Use the sports analogy. Well, it's the same thing. Before you can go and dive into the spirit world whatever spiritual system it is. I don't care if it's Palo. I don't care if it's hoodoo voodoo. I don't care if it's Luciferianism. I don't care if it's vampirism. Know the rules, know the tools, the implements, the system, know the playbook, right? If you're a football player, you got to know that playbook, right? Well, you need to know the playbook. Some motherfuckers just want to wake up. I want to be a vampire today. I'm gonna be a master vampire today, right? Just because I read a book yesterday, it looks good, it looks spiritual. So now that's not how this works. And it's not just Palo, it's all of these paths. Okay. All right. What else we got here? Oni, maybe that's why I can't find nobody, or the ones I do find get jacked the minute they show their entire ass. Well, I got my theories on that, but I ain't gonna talk about it here. Reformation Tyson, 21 nations are different groups of lower. They come from different tribes. Oh, that's correct. Over 8,000 roughly exist. That's why I was saying earlier, some people think it's not 21 spirits. They're hierarchies. There are 21 hierarchies of these spirits that can branch out, like Rev Mason put up there, 18,000 on upward. You understand? So you got to know that's the vastness. That's the amount. Well, like I said, we'd be here all night if we were just doing a video. We're talking about, excuse me. We're talking about, only just some of the ones that we're familiar with. Now, if you went over into Benin, if you went over into the Congo, there'd probably be some spirits we'd be opened up to that we were not even familiar with. We're just talking about the ones that we're familiar with and that we've connected with here in the Caribbean, Latin America, and the United States. So, yeah, I mean, this shit goes way deeper than that. And again, you need to know this, man. This is important. So, look, that's why I laugh at people that get caught up in ethnicity. I laugh at people that get caught up in skin tone, whether you too light, too dark, or whatever the fuck it is. I've learned on these systems, you judge an individual by their works. I'm not interested in what a motherfucker looks like physically. I look at somebody and base it on their works and their actions. That's all I care about. If you know your shit, you know what you're talking about, I'm fucking with you. If you on the problem we also have in this conscious community shit, and I myself have experienced it for 20 plus years. I may not fit the criteria for certain individuals, like who, because I'm tall, who are you to talk about all this African stuff? Well, I couldn't give a fuck if I fit your criteria. Okay. That's irrelevant. Because again, it goes back to works, like a backup, what I say. And I find out these so-called people who are on this dark skin, light skin shit don't even know half of the shit that they're talking about themselves, because they're so blinded by the dark and the light shit that they don't know anything. When you talk to them, they are of no substance. The shit that they claim they're about, they can't even validate, prove, or back it up. So it's straight comical to me. That's another thing that we have to bypass and figure out a way to get by, because when we're looking at things from an external perspective, especially when it comes to simple things like that can seriously prevent you from going places or growing in certain areas of your spirituality. That's all I'm gonna say on that. But anyway, only Kalfu comes through Odu, Ifa Ofun with Ishu and Shango. Now, Kalfu, I mentioned earlier. I'm glad you bring that up. In the voodoo or the Vundon pantheon, right? Your Kalfu, or Kalfu, as some say, is another aspect of Papa Legba, but it is the darker. It's like I said earlier. I think I mentioned briefly earlier. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it earlier. It deals with destructive, what they call destructive black magic. It can bring death. It can bring a whole bunch of destruction on a multitude of levels. Now, it is taught, a correct priest or priestess will teach you not to fuck with Kalfu, because sometimes that energy of Kalfu cannot be removed from an individual. I want to make this clear. That's not some shit you just go playing around with. Some people have opened themselves up. Now, there's rituals you can do to remove the spirit of Kalfu from you, because sometimes when you access Kalfu and it gets that taste of destruction, it tends not to want to leave around the individual. That's why you need to be very careful with it. It's always recommended only to access or invoke Kalfu in desperate times, meaning if you've tried everything and it hasn't worked, that's the time, because Kalfu is the connection to the dead. Papa Leg will guide you to the spirits, right? He's the pathway and the roadway. He connects you, and that's why he is propagated. Kind of what we're going to be working with on the 31st is connected to what I just talked about. But that you bring that up, yes, I would advise anybody if they make the decision to work with that. And how do you know if Kalfu energy stays with you and you don't want it to be there no more? Well, when shit starts going haywire really bad, I'm talking about every aspect in your life can get destroyed. You lose your career, lose your job. I've seen you can go homeless literally if you are accessing it, because it feeds off of destruction. It feeds off of all cycles of death. It's that powerful, and it's rarely ever invoked or used, only if necessary. And I'd recommend people do their research on that. So in voodoo, between Kalfu and Papa Legbutter is that there is that connection there. Okay, what else we got? Yeah, El Spiritismo, or Spiritism, as they say in English, is connected with, yes, not even just with Sanse and the 21 divisions, even in Santeria, because Alan Kardec's book is actually used in a misa that you'll see most Santeras and Santeros use. They use a lot of the prayers in Alan Kardec's book. Actually, I have it right here. Let me show you for an example. I actually have the Book of Spiritism, but this book right here, bear with me. Just bear with me. Since you brought it up, I just want to pull it out. And people have probably seen this book. Bear with me so I can damn find it. Okay. Sorry about that. I just had to reach over. This is the book. You probably have seen this book, and this is by Alan Kardec, who also wrote the Book of Spiritism, which a lot of Santeros and Santeras study. You probably have seen this book in English and Spanish in Botanicas. You've even seen this book in Haitian Botanicas. They even use some of the collection of the prayers and invocations in here. There's prayers to the tranquil and intranquil spirits, prayers to the guardian angels in here, etc. This book is actually used, the format, word verbatim, almost, for what misas that Santeros and Santeras use come right out of this book. How do I know? Because we were required to memorize some of them when we did the misas. And the funny thing after that is then they go into African drumming. And if Brother Jack is in here, he can attest to this because Jack belongs to the same house in Santeria that I do. He has the same godmother. And he can tell you how we used to always trip out about that. We start out with that. And then once that bullshit is out of the way, then it's now they start drumming for the Igun and the spirits. And that's when we would get our little jam on, because that's what always drew me to the misas was when they started to invoke the spirits and play the drums, and I would play the drums at these misas, etc. Jack would, and that's when we would get our ancestral party on, for lack of a better word. But Alan Kardec, you'll see his influence in all of those traditions. And he's a French spiritualist. Now, do your research, how that shit got connected by into Cuba, etc., and how it made its way into a lot of these traditions. His works on spiritism to this very day still have a heavy influence in them traditions. And anybody that is familiar with those traditions to an extent know that. All right. What else we got? Yeah, Dana Bidlake, in reference to the spirits, one hand in the head, one hand in the heart, drive us around like a car. Got to love the unseen realms. Yeah, and you always got to be prepared. It's that type of a ride. But again, if you come in with a clear mind and you're genuine, sincere, and your intent is to learn, grow, and evolve, it could be a beautiful ride. You understand? Anarchy Zed sounds beautiful. The moon, love spells, yeah. And there's a lot of that work, spell work. See, the path that I have of Oshun deals with spells and bruja, witchcraft, and magic. And that's why I want to make that clear. Oshun is just, and I've said this before, Oshun is just not sexuality and materialistic and money and wealth and all that. See, that's the bullshit everybody just thinks on the surface. But my particular path of Oshun is a conjurer, a spell worker that works magic, casts spells, down, stays down by the ocean and has a big cauldron pot. That's a specific path of Oshun, and goes by a certain title. And remember, a lot of these spirits have certain paths and different titles, all of them. So it's not just one Oshun, it's not just one Shay, etc. So the point being is, the beauty of it is, one, understanding it. You understand? Two, once you understand it, now you have the ammunition to proceed forward and do spell work witchcraft, work with herbs, create mojo bags, nagapa, whatever it is you want to do. Because now you've educated yourself. Two, now when I say intent and you're sincere, you now must ask, what is your intent to sit out and do these things? You must sit down and ask yourself that. Why do you want to do this? And again, remember, I have to go back. I might even revisit that subject, the steads and rewards of work on this path. And what is the first and greatest reward? Knowledge of self. When you have knowledge of self, everything else will be given unto you. Because once you have knowledge of self, you don't need to have to go to the extravagance to do work for physical things. Just saying, this is how it works. What else we got? By Felicia's Yummy. Peace. I have a sigil tattooed on my arm. Okay, that's cool. I have vaguely heard of the term Palo. I used to visit Mexico a lot more than I do in the past few years, but I used to surf a lot down there. Okay. Jesus Malverde, dreamt of him before. Okay. Just reach through the scrying wells. Okay. Does Yvette types in, does the Hispanic Cholo of the 1940s have something to do with this spiritual system? This dress style was popular in the 1940s. I mean, I couldn't say for sure, so I'm not going to sit here and say yes or no. Yeah, obviously you can see some of the similarities. And like I said earlier, one thing you're going to see a lot of the culture, the influence, etc. It is interconnected on some level. Can I say exactly and 100% for sure with the Cholos in the 1940s? No, but can you see some of the obvious similarities? Yes. Yeah, and Jesus Malverde, even popular in hoodoo and voodoo. Kind of, some even refer to him as, I say this with all due respect, as the male aspect of how some Mexican witchcraft practitioners access Santissima Muerte, because, as you know, she's very popular in Mexico for protecting drug traffickers, criminals, prostitutes, etc. So yes, it is more prominent in Mexican witchcraft. You can find it in a lot of books in hoodoo and voodoo. The Hoodoo Voodoo spell book has a whole, not a large section, but has a section on Jesus Malverde. I've never really worked with it. I don't really have no desire to, but yes, it exists. He's typing in Chocho El Roto, Gachito Him, Nazareno Moreno Gonzalez, Mama Cholo. Yeah, all these. Madre de la Luna. We went over all these earlier. I guess that was a reference to earlier. Yvette typed in, the men wore huge pants. Yeah, she's talking about the Cholos again. And will wear a feather in their hat with a chain hanging from their waist. They came in. Okay, what else we got? Oh, shit. Bear with me. Thing just jumped on me. Damn. Bear with me. It's like when you scroll down on this thing, it gets to a certain point and jumps. Hold on. I gotta fix this. Bear with me, people. It skipped. Okay, here we go. Matthew Watson, I'm not sure what that question was in reference to. It might have been something I said earlier. Maybe something further down clarifies it. Would doing this increase the contact you get on your dreams? I'm not sure doing what. Maybe you can clarify that. I have Oni types, and I have Yemayao Shun and a Oya Sopra. Floral motif. Oya is straight, plain, brownish, goldish. Yeah. That's usually Oya's main color, a brownish, goldish colors. Sometimes she has the 9 different colors. Again, it depends on what spiritual house their tradition is. But yeah, I actually work with that in the aspect of udon, and I use the brownish scarf also for that. So yeah. All right, what else we got? Yeah, Dana Bid Lake types in, once you step through the door, it closes behind you. There's no turning back to what was. Yeah, once you connect with this type of work, you can't go back to doing what you used to do. It's just, it'll never be the same. So it is a very life-changing experience on all levels. Okay. Matthew Watson, I assume, because that question was typed in over an hour ago, I kind of already addressed where you would go to get initiated. I think you heard me talk all about that, finding a house, attending a misa, Palo Misa, and seeing if you are marked by the spirits to get initiated or scratched. That's the key. Once you find a house where you can go to do that, then you'll know. Anyway, I'm watching some ridiculous bullshit on TV. I was just flashing through. They got the VMAs on. It's fucking unbelievable how garbage they got on here. Between Nicki Minaj and garbage ass Jennifer Lopez, the De Niro, non-singing, no talent Jennifer Lopez. Anyway, whole nother story. Sorry, I got distracted. All right, what else we got? Yvette Goldo, what does scratch mean and what does it look like? All right, scratch or marks. I mean, you probably can't. I mean, mine are right there. You probably can't see them because they're light. I don't know if you can see them there. But scratch are marks that confirms the ceremony that when you've been initiated. At the end of your initiation or scratching, you're given these marks. And these marks have a significance to the initiate. They mean something to the initiate. And the Polaro gives them the breakdown of meaning to the initiate. And that's for the initiate only. They never reveal that or tell that to anybody. So that's what scratch. You're literally you're scratched with a very sharp tool, and those scratches are permanently embedded in your skin, and they never come out. It's almost like you'll see some people who go through a college fraternity, they get branded, right? You see, that's not really scratched, but similar. And every time you look at those marks, it's a reminder, and you again know what they mean. They only hold a significance to the initiate because it's a personal marking for them. So that's what it means. So that's another thing you need. That's another thing you got to be careful of, these online tatas and nagas and all these shit that claim to be tatas and shit. Because I literally talked to one of them. First of all, you wouldn't talk openly about it. That's number one. You wouldn't get into any personal information to somebody you don't know and what level they're on. But when you ask somebody basics, and I asked one individual, they weren't even scratched. So I'm like, how you creating naga pots? Because let me make this clear on this path. You can be scratched and initiated. You don't have to go to the extent to be a full-blown Polaro and take on godchildren. See, I never did that. Never had no intent to do that. Never wanted to do that. There's some individuals get scratched. They might have to wait a year or so, or sometimes not even necessary for them to get a naga pot. So it just depends. But you must be initiated on some form of level. So not everybody that's been scratched or initiated is a full-blown Polaro. A full-blown Polaro is somebody that takes on the commitment, just like a padrino or a madrina that wants to start their own house and have their own godchildren. That's what labels one a full-blown Palero, like that's running and operating their own house. You're a Palero in the sense that you've been initiated, of course, and that's by way of your question being scratched. So that's what that means. Okay. What else we got? Matthew Watson. Again, I don't know if you earlier. As far as books, I was recommending just putting Carlos Montenegro. The Secrets of the Naga is one good book. The one I was reading from tonight, Palo Mayombe, The Spirits of Palo Mayombe. Another good book that deals with Palo. This is more so Palo Monte. But you will see some Mayombe in here, the book on Palo. And this is by Baba Raul Canzares. He's also a initiate in Ifa. And let me give you an example. Like, all right, let me show you some. There's some photos in here. All right, here's an example of somebody kind of showing somebody being scratched. I don't know if you can see that, but they're getting the knife right there and getting in, officially scratched. That's the type of shit you go through, okay? There's a couple pictures in here I could kind of show you. All right, there's drinking, and there's drinking of the blood of the animal. I don't know if you can see that. You see that right there? Blindfolded. And when that part comes in the ceremony, you don't you don't even know. Okay, well, you know after, but you don't even. There's more pictures. You can pull the book up yourself. This is what I'm trying to say is people think this is like, it's not about playing this shit, man. It's not. If what I'm saying, if that's your thing and you resonate with it, then power to you. But that's just a small taste of things you go through in the actual initiations. So it's got to be something, one, that's in your DNA and your blood and that you're marked to do. So again, I want to make it clear. I've said it several times throughout the video. I'm going to say it again. You can't just wake up and go, I want to be a Palero. You must go through the necessary. I'm saying if you're looking at going the traditional route, I would recommend, if you're on this path, and that's what this channel is about, adept of the black arts and black magic, I would work it from that perspective, because I'm going to tell you, if you work it right and you educate yourself and you know what you're doing, you can get just as much or more results without having to go through all of that shit you're going to go through. And you're going to go through some shit, and it's a commitment. The average initiation, that there is also a probation period, like there is getting crowned. There's that year probation period of do's and do nots. So it's a commitment. Oh my God, I'm sorry. This is like fucking garbage. All right, so what else do we got? Elementals are fun but deadly to the weak-willed. That was Dana Billy. Oni says, I ran through the door and never looked back. That's good. I looked back and asked where the door went and was showed a whole new way of being. Yeah, it's life-changing, period. No matter what philosophy or metaphor you use to explain it, it's life-changing. And if you embrace it in its totality, it's life-changing in a great way. It's the best way I can describe it. Now, oh, I'm sorry. That shit is fucking hilarious. Yeah. So what else we got? I was working with my goon stick today. Good. Wait, I skipped something. My V, peace system. My, good to see you here. Anarchy, and that's cool, man. Yeah, I noticed like a similarity with my current path, what you was talking about hierarchies in this episode, structure-wise anyways. Yeah, and I like how you said to compare paths also. I remember hearing that. Yeah, I always look. Anybody that knows me, I always encourage you to check out everything, number one. And remember, always getting it. There is no right or wrong way to doing it. When you get stuck in that mentality, like it must be done this way. Now, I'm not saying there's not a certain way to approach it. As far as, all right, there are basic essentials that everyone needs to know on any of these paths. So yeah, there are some, key points you need to be conscious and aware of. But when you get caught up in this whole, oh, you know, it has to be done this way because such and such said, or this tradition says that it has, that's all bullshit. Because ask yourself this, before any of these traditions or paths came on the scene, there had to be the first person that officially established the decree that this is the only way to do it, right? So who gave them the right to say that? And was there anybody there to challenge it then like there is now? And most likely no, because it was during a different time period. It was during a whole different era where during those times, we didn't have the knowledge, the technology, and the advancement that we have now. So nobody questioned shit. You understand? So what I'm saying is an adept of the black arts and the black magician doesn't get caught up in that mindset, because when he or she removes themselves as the center, as the governing force that controls all aspects of their spirituality, they now have become, you know, the subject to being the victim now. They can be utilized. They're part of the experiment, as we say. They're no different than anybody else. So we never approach it from that perspective, okay? What else we got? Lady Williams, peace and greetings. Good to see you. What else we got? Yeah. Rev Mason typed in, voodoo is sacrifice goats and chickens. Not just goats and chickens. I've seen cows, dogs. If you don't have the sight for that, and again, I just was never crazy about it. It can be very intense or overwhelming. And again, I understand, you know, a lot of them go through the initiation of the knife and they're taught a certain way and the animals don't suffer. They're taught the right way to kill them. But I just was never vibing with that. So you got to understand that any of these, if you're going to go the traditional route in any of these spiritual systems, all of them incorporate animal sacrifice on some shape, form, or fashion. I'm just going to keep it real with you. And you don't have a say so. So if you're against that, then if that's something you don't vibe with, whatever it might be, then I gotta be 100%. I gotta be 100% honest with you. It's probably not the path you want to go, because you will see a lot of that. And I just showed you some really timid, laid back pictures in that book. That's nothing. Trust me. What else we got? Dana Blidlake types in, I'm so loving the astral realm. Some awesome stuff going on in the unseen worlds. That is for sure awesome stuff. True indeed. Matthew Watson, damn, not the food and pussy. Yes. When you go through, yes, that is a fact. When you go through and you get crowned, yeah, that year, that's why I was saying, you've heard me, I've mentioned it in many videos over the last couple of years. If you're not willing to sacrifice an entire year of your life of certain foods, because remember, you're going to find out, for an example, in Ifa, before getting crowned, you have a big misa, a huge misa ceremony. And if so choose, your main family can be there, your bloodline family. All the people that are going to participate in the crowning are there as they attend. And obviously your godmother, your godfather who are presiding over the misa. Everything is told to you in that misa that you're going to expect in your crowning, literally. And that includes certain foods. You're going to find out what all of these Orishi, whatever's sacred food to that Orishi, you cannot eat it, period. And whatever other foods might come up for health reasons, etc. You're told what to stay and stay, wait, you know, what to stay and not to mess with. You could be told certain things that might bring on certain diseases, upcoming events, and whatever it may be. You're given basically, it's like a forecast of what you can expect from the moment of getting crowned and moving forward. That's pretty much what it is. And in that year-long probation, there's a lot of sacrifices. And you have to wear white for an entire year, everywhere you go. White, literally everywhere you go. And I know some people who, have jobs and have found that challenging. Yes, if you have a job. I've known people to find ways to work around it, but you got to, that's what I'm saying. If you're going to think of going on any of these spiritual systems, you better be willing to understand the commitment it involves. and it's not optional. You can't say, well, I'm going to go do that, but I don't want to do that. I'll do this. No. If you belong to a house and you're a godchild of any one of these male or female high priest or priestesses, you got to follow the rules. There's no, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. All right. So hope we're clear on that. David Kinsler will eventually make it to Miami. That's cool, brother. Hope we can see you soon. That'd be awesome. Yvette Gore, that is crazy that you can't look in the mirror or have sex for a whole year. You have to be truly dedicated and disciplined. Yes. It is what it is. I've known many people to do it. Fortunately, I actually know 2 people that that I stay in contact with still from my house. They were part initiates. They got their leques, and they're in the process of doing that now. And power to them. Power to them. It is a sacrifice and a discipline. All right. Dana Billick, maybe spell checking. When you use right on bridge dreams of demons and the flesh, charge are born yet in small amounts and new worlds open into. Wow. Yep. Self-bloodletting works well. Lady Williams, I remember when we were getting initiated, we had to get the chickens. We went to this Amish farm in Pennsylvania. By the time we got to the city, most of them died in the trunk from extensive heat. I was like, yeah, I mean, right there, whoever was in charge of that right there, that's a no-no. If you knew you had to travel long, now usually when you get the chickens, they usually put them in these boxes and they just cut a hole in them just to give them enough room to breathe. And you can't transport them for long periods of time. Now, we were fortunate when I did it, for any ceremonies we needed live animals, whether it's New York or Miami. My godfather in Ifa lives in New York, in Forest Hills, and my godmother lives down here. But there's spots that were, if we were fortunate, close to where we were doing the ceremonies, was a short drive away where they sold the live animals. And yeah, you got to be able to get them and get back to, where you got to be quick, because, I mean, especially if it's hot like that. I mean, that's crazy. No, that's not a good sign. You're right. That's a bad sign. Matthew Robson, that snake test sounds like lit. I love serpents. Well, I'm going to tell you this. We're getting ready to, I'm going to tell you what for. And I know she's not in here right now. But we getting ready to do it's a working quote unquote with something I'm connected to, and it's handling snakes and serpents. That's what we're getting ready to do on that's next month. I believe the 3rd or 4th week of September. And the ritual is centered around that, losing fear of snakes and understanding what snakes represent on this path. So we'll be handling boas and what's the other one? Rattle, and I forgot what the other one is. Obviously, somebody that's bred them, and they're trained, and they're not poisonous, but they're real. They could still hurt and do damage if they clamp down on you. So yeah, that's something we're getting actually ready to do next month. Not the one where you go into the ground, but where you're actually handling them. And I probably haven't done something with that since then, so it'll be interesting for me. What else we got? Well, I own a few pythons, and I will take one with me sometimes when I skateboard around town. She would stay wrapped around my neck the entire ride. Python, that's the other one we're getting ready to handle. That's pretty cool. Lady Williams, it was crazy because they were money hungry and always struggling. I was like, how can a Madrina be so broke and have gifts? I was with family, yet they didn't see anything wrong. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. You got your hustlers, you got your con artists. I mean, they out there. Wow, those spirits dig through the brains. Everything comes up. Yep. Interesting, Palo. Damn, I've got a lot to learn. Yep. When I called them out on their BS, they said I was going to be cursed. Yeah, there's the game. And God was going to punish me, and how dare I defy it. See, that's the game. That's one of the classic reasons why I left years ago, was because I saw the religious hierarchy, even in this. Just like you have your pastors and your priests and your imams, Well, it's kind of it's kind of the same. You have your ranks, and then once you start to see shit that ain't right and you don't like it, and you start questioning shit, then yeah, you're always ostracized. Yo, who are you to question? Well, I'm somebody that wants to use you playing with my soul. You understand? I'm putting my soul in your hands. You know what I mean? So I have a right to question you. So even though I didn't really have that much problem, wasn't really that type of conflict in my house that I belong to. That's not really why I left. I just wanted to separate myself from just a lot of the religious stuff that I didn't really care for. Because as I said, I'm still I still communicate with my, godmother. Not like I used to, I check in periodically, but yeah. You deal with that bullshit. That's the games they run. So Lady Renz, I'm so glad I found you. There are some definite bullshitters out there. True indeed. David will order a consultation soon. Cool. Looking forward to that. All right, Dana. Dana's having some serious experiences. When the walls start talking, you know you're doing something right. I would assume so. Never disrespect something you can't see without first opening your 7 centers and stepping through the door. Then you see with 3. I'm sending positive. I thank you for your advice. 21 realms in the tree of life. Okay. Matthew Watson, you're more of a brother than half the so-called conscious community. Yeah, and that's when I was talking earlier about, skin tone, and because like I say, I myself and others that I know like myself we dealt with that shit. I've been dealing with that shit since the 80s, man. And that's usually a distraction. And I found out that when you deal with somebody that is pointing out that they're trying to take the attention off themselves for lack of what they don't know. And as I said earlier, I simply deal with people, and I ask people to deal with me by back the shit up that you talk about. Don't just talk about it, right? We had that old saying when we were younger: don't talk about it, be about it. And some of us, such as myself, this is what we do. You understand? We take this shit serious. I don't take this as a game, not fanatically, because then you got some people that are spooked out and fanatics. But, this is not something we do part-time. This is not something that I do just when I pop on the camera on YouTube. This is something that is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, constant. And as I said earlier, you judge a person by their works, right? You judge a tree by the fruit it bears. That's how I deal with people. So I don't care if you could be dark-skinned with a big afro and have on all the cultural attire and all these heavy spiritual symbols. That don't mean shit to me. You could absolutely not know a damn thing. And I've seen it before. I've seen a lot of people play the part, right? They know how to play the role. But as you always hear me say on this path, being a black magician, you cannot fake the funk. There will be a time you will be called to show and demonstrate and show and prove your power as a black magician. And I'm telling you this because I've gone through it on a multitude of levels. I just went through it again recently on a whole nother system. So it's never ending. You will be commanded to show your power and your wisdom as a black magician. That's the difference on this path. So you can run around for years playing Hotep and Alafia with people, right? You can put on the dashiki and put on the Orishi beads and walk around saying, Alafia and Ashe, right? And you have half of the masses fooled. But you can't do that on this path, because I know me, when I sit down and talk to you, I'm going to get it out of you in a couple of minutes. I'll sit with you for 5 minutes and I'll know exactly where you're coming from. Trust me when I tell you. And that's how we got to be. That's how we got to operate, because it keeps us away from these people on the internet selling fucking naga pots and issues. And I mean, come on, seriously. But like, again, I don't know who to look at more fucked up, the people that's doing it or the people that's actually buying this shit and falling for it. I don't know if they should be ostracized more, because how can you be so fucking dumb? Because it tells me you haven't done your research. You should know better. If you knew anything about these systems and how they operate and work, you would know not to even fuck with nothing like that. So anyway, what else we got? Rev Mason types in cultural determines who you are. Race determines how your body functions. I agree. That's a good point. Stuffed Dog 69, the dark and light skin shit. I had to realize I was born into that perception of dark and light. That state of mind does not belong to me. When we realize that we can move forward and know if people are still in that mindset, you don't have to acknowledge it. It's like getting a new car. You don't see it until you put it in your garage. That's a good point. Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. And, having said that, I mean, I know all of us here are educated enough to have that common sense, but, unfortunately, you still see this, in a lot of conscious circles. It's just, you're not black enough, or, you don't have a right to this or that. And I mean, and it works flip side. You see this also when you look at, Latinos and blacks trying to find a high place in Catholicism or Christianity. They just don't fit the mold. And unfortunately, these different levels of racism, they exist. They're a reality, and we know this. I'm not saying anything that nobody doesn't know. But I'm glad that majority of everybody here understands in order to really evolve, you have to bypass that. You got to move past that shit. You know what I mean? And you got to be able to put it in its proper perspective and not let that define, who and what you are, one, and two, what this is all about. But unfortunately, some people do. Lady Williams says, my mom always said to pay the one that the spirits used to help if it's not disrespectful. True. Oni, as a black active, how do you feel about women working on the altars when on their menses, aka menstrual cycle? Now, in vampirism, sometimes that's a requirement. So it also, in some rituals, I'm saying, it's actually an additive. It doesn't really matter on this path. There's really no, on dealing with the black arts, there's really no particular system that really forbids it unless you get into some, more religious, spiritual systems and traditional systems. But when dealing with the black arts, that's actually could be a bonus in some rituals. And again, we don't look at the male or the female being one greater than the other. We look at them as both essential elements because they provide both needed energies. And as far as ranks and quote unquote, if that's the word we want to use, ranks. But as far as hierarchy or titles or positions, if you're in a good system, you'll know it doesn't matter if you're male or female. You can go to the highest rank. Whereas, say, like women can't be babalawos, things of that nature. There's still some of that chauvinism in that traditional systems. That's a reality. It exists. So, yeah. What else we got? Only Santissima Muerte comes through. Okay. Dana Blitlick, I believe I've stepped into the sorcery realms. Cool. Oh, shit. Just jumped. Give me a second. People have jumped on me again. Okay, here we go. Only I enjoy my spiritual life and path. They talk better and give better advice than a lot of people, I feel. Then that's what you roll with. When you can confirm truth for self, and that sounds like a truth statement to me, never go against that, because who knows better? Again, you hear me say this all the time, and I'm going to say it again. Who knows better what you need for you than you? Who knows better about you than you? So when you're getting a confirmation feeling like that, that's what you roll with, regardless. If it works, it works. That's what I tell people. All right. Only types, and I don't even know how to go back to the life I had before. It's just way too ignorant. I just cannot go back there. And that's true. You can't. You never will be able to. A lot of my old associates and friends can't understand me now. And that's, we always talk about that on this path. There is that separation. That really, whether you're conscious of it or not, that's tapping into the isolated consciousness. There's that isolated period where there's a physical part of it too, not just a mental and a spiritual part. You will find that your circle, your social circles will change greatly. You will even find yourself, some people that you might have been close with prior to coming on these paths or were friends with, you kind of detest them now to a certain level for certain reasons. So there's a whole transformation and shakeup. When you start tapping in on this level, everything changes. And that's part of going through the transition. And transition can last for a long period of time. Sometimes it's a continuing transition process for some that are accelerating at a fast rate. So that comes with the territory, unfortunately. And really, in essence, after it's all said and done, it's actually a good thing, because what it does is keep people out of your circle that don't need to be there. You understand? Excuse me. Sorry. Dana Blidley, grow moonflowers, gym some outside of your bedroom to dream deeply into the unseen realms. Okay, that's working for you. That's cool. Oni types in Oya exposes your betrayers right in front of your face. She's the truth. Yeah, Oya is another vengeful, warrior-like, savage type of spirit. Not a good spirit to piss off. And when working in that fashion, yes, like Oni's saying, it can be very outright and straight to the point. Yes, Ismail Bin, I'm not sure what time you came in. Yes, even the ones I went through, several of them were female. So yes, there's a conglomeration of male and female. And again, you will notice in most of these black magic, witchcraft spiritual systems, these feminine spirits are much more warrior-like and aggressive than the male. It's the best thing I can tell you. I've learned that from experience. Okay, only type Sam. We're almost done, people. Only types in, I was crying, laughing, I felt stupid, but it was what I had already knew, just denied it until I was forced to see it. And that's one thing. A lot of these spirits, that's what I was saying earlier, like with Papa Legba, when you're working with these spirits, they're going to make you see things for what they are, not what you want them to be. Let me say that. That's that old adage. Sometimes you're working and seeking things you don't need. And when you're working with these spirits and it's bringing about that change, you hear me say this all the time, it's going to bring the change you need, not the change you want sometimes, because sometimes you can confuse what you want and that doesn't equate to what you need. So these spirits will bring it raw dog right in your face and they're going to bring you what you need. And sometimes that can be overwhelming because what you need, you may not have prepared yourself for because you were focusing so much on what you wanted that you were not putting the attention and the focus on what was needed to get shit corrected in your life. And that can be a very overwhelming experience and very emotional on a multitude of levels. It can bring emotions of tears, joy, happiness, sadness, depression to a certain extent. So you got to be prepared for that. And that's why I'm saying approach this with the utmost reverence and respect. And how do you do that? With being aware, knowing what the fuck you're doing. I'm not saying be religious and spooked out. When you're aware and you're knowing what you're doing and your intent is sincere, it prepares you for what's going to get ready to come your way. When you're not, you tend to, be a victim and fall to the roadside. I've seen it happen a bunch of times. Only I give cow food apples at the crossroads at 3 a.m. Yeah, that tradition right there of giving cow food apples, that's how they say you kind of can keep him at bay. There's also a ritual where the apples are used to actually, if you're trying to remove his energy, period, around you. It's put with some other implements and you toss it over your shoulder at the crossroads at 3 a.m. and you don't look back, you go the other way. But that's the best way to propagate or acknowledge or work with cow food is at 3 a.m. at the crossroads. And apples is used to appease. But I know personally only meeting with you and, doing a little bit of work with you and talking with you, I know you've got thorough experience in that. So it's a little different. When I was talking earlier about if you don't or you're not familiar with cow food, and I'm sure you can attest to this, if you work with cow food on a certain level, you should educate yourself because if you don't know what you're doing, it can severely fuck you up. It's a very volatile, destructive spirit if it gets out of control. All right. Only types in when I divine. Sometimes cow food comes through, Ofun, and I ask if it's him. He likes offerings, and I give him tea light candle when he's at my door. My divinations have told me to get involved in Espiritismo, a whole white table thing. That's what what's that about, Brother B? Oh, that's your Bovita. You should, if that's what you were informed to do, only you should set up what they call a Bovita, which is an altar to communicate with the spirits by way of that system, which it's basically an ancestral altar. You'll see some set up with 7 glasses and one big one in the middle, or some like to set it up with one big glass bowl, and that's what I like to do. And so the Bovita or the white altar is basically an ancestral altar to utilize to communicate with the spirits. And you just have basic implements on it like white flowers, candles, a white cloth, and water. And that's the essentials to basically communicate with the spirits. And kind of similar to what we did when we did a reading and you asked what did we need, though we didn't have the flowers. I just said all we needed was the candle and a glass of water. And we may not have had it on the white cloth, but yeah, those are the elements. So you'll find that the Bovita is set up at every Misa. When you go to a Misa, it's the same thing. There's always white flowers on the altar, a white candle, and there's always 7 glasses of water or the one big goblet of water. So yes, it's basically a altar used to communicate with the spirits. It's an ancestral altar. If you have an ancestral altar set up, which I know you do, you could use that. Or if you just want to use it for specific sessions of communicating with the spirits and only for that, then you can set up a separate Bovita or a spiritual altar, whatever you want to call it. There's a good book for that. Let me show you this. I would recommend you get this. This is an excellent book, and I actually still utilize this today. Let me show you this book for Oni and everybody else. If you want to work that path, let me put this book up there, and I'd encourage everybody to get this book. This is a great book. I got this probably 12, 13 years ago. It's Say Al Santissimo, and it's all about working with the spirits, setting up altars. Like, let me give you an example of what I was saying. That picture, you're not going to be able to see it on the screen. But I'm gonna show you the section of setting it up, and I'm glad you brought that up real quick. We actually, and we utilize this in Misas for the dead, and we did this not too long last year, actually, when myself, Brother Jack, when Sister Sonia's father passed away, we did a Misa for his spirit, actually brought his spirit down to actually communicate with the family. It was good. It was pretty good. It was nice. Let me give you an example. In the beginning of this book, these are some of the topics. And look at the symbol. Look at that symbol for spiritism. Look at that shit. You got the pentagram, the swords. You got the sun, the crescent, right? This is all right. That's a whole nother story. For an example, what is spiritism? What is a spiritismo? The Bovita is spiritual, right? So the actual Misa, how to conduct a spiritual Misa. But the Bovita, to answer your question on page 16, I gave you some of what I was just telling you. All right. The Bovita is spiritual. The practice of a spiritismo is centered around a special altar or shrine called Bovita Espiritual. The simple altar consists of a number of plain glasses from 1 up to 9. A crucifix. I don't put a crucifix there. You could put an ankh there if you want. Incense, flowers mixed with some sweet basil, perfumes, certain books of prayers. They have the Allan Kardec one here, this one that I was telling you about. They'll use a lot of these invocations from in there. And, of course, candles, white candles. Some practitioners also include statues of saints and spirit guides, as well as pictures of deceased family members. You see how it's very similar to an ancestral altar? It basically is. Bottles of rum, cigars, offerings of coffee, food, rosaries, icons. Some Bovitas even have small glass pyramids, jade Buddhas, and a monstrance, the Santissimo. The shrine functions as a place where people go to salute the spirits and to communicate with their guides on a daily basis. As each and every person has different spirit guides who are put together as a group called spiritual court, it is only natural to see slight variations in individual Bovitas. What follows are instructions on how to set up a Bovita. Then it gets into some suggestions. But not just for you, but since you asked, I would recommend, if anybody's interested in that type of practice, this book, Seau Santissimo. The author is Mario Dos, Dos Ventos, Ventos. Seau. Now, if you've ever been to a misa, that's how the misa starts. Seau Santissimo. Seau. We all repeat that. Seau Santissimo. Seau. Right. That's how we started. And that's summoning the spirits or calling the spirits. So the Bovita, so what came through in your reading is basically to use because basically you're a medium and you commune with the spirits. So you were getting confirmation through the Odu or the sign, through the oracle you were reading. That's the route you should start looking into. We work with that. But that's a good book. Seau Santissimo by Mario Dos Ventos. Good book. All right, what else we got? Hey, Obsidian. Okay, that was dinner here today. Like Esmeralda, like Obatala, both male and female. Yes, represents both of those energies. That's probably Obsidian Sun self-initiation ? Not sure what that's in reference to. Esmeralda, like a hermaphrodite. Now, yeah, you gotta understand when you go back and study ancient cultures, you will find, like, especially if you go into the Dravidian culture, right? And even if you go into ancient Egypt and you look at Ankh-Akhenaten, right? It's recorded in a lot of these ancient texts. The first beings that came here were hermaphrodite, right? They had those qualities. We know that this is a fact, that those type of beings existed. And you see this, and you look at Ankh-Akhenaten, he was a hermaphrodite. He had a curvy body like a female. Look at his features and look how he's drawn up in a lot of these pictures. When you look at a lot of the Dravidian gods or the Hindu gods and goddesses, they look androgynous. They look male and female at the same time. And recorded in a lot of those texts, a lot of those androgynous beings were hermaphrodite, sexual by nature. I always pose this question to religious people. If we're all created in the image and likeness of God, whose image and likeness are hermaphrodites created in? And if we're all created in the image and likeness of God, is God a hermaphrodite? And they looked at me like I was the evilest thing on the planet when I brought that question up. You have to also ask yourself this. To show you that at one time that this was all connected, androgyny, look at the physical organs on the male body and the female body. A male has two breasts. What purpose do they serve? A woman has two breasts. Now, a woman, when she was in a pure form functioning, always gave birth to twins. Before, a lot of genetic disorders and diseases kicked in. Now, most women don't give birth to twins all the time. But when a woman was operating and functioning at her full capacity, she always gave birth to two twins. You understand? And she always breastfed two babies at one time. Why do men have two breasts? What purpose do they serve? Everything that you can find on the male body is on the female body, including the penis. The clitoris is nothing but a penis. Okay? And how you know when you go into what dominates that whole scenario is the mitochondria DNA. That's the key. And the mitochondria DNA, which is the essence, you understand, of all, when you're dealing with the genetic structure and makeup, the more of the mitochondria DNA resides in the female and only minute traces of it in the male. Males are basically genetic mutants of females. That's a scientific fact. I know that's hard for some men to stomach, but that's a reality when it comes down to science and genetics. Don't get caught up in that religious shit that men were here first and all that other bullshit. It's a scientific fact, genetically. And this is where, and they even did an article in the New York, Time magazine in the early 90s, the mitochondria Eve. You can go pull it up. And they're basing this on science, genetics, carbon, and fossil dating. They can, and even go back to the historical Lucy that they found in Africa. They're confirming this, that genetically, women were on the planet prior to men. I know religion teaches it the other way, and a lot of these traditions are chauvinistic and teach it the other way, but that's just not a scientific fact. You understand? So when we look at creation and the aspect of male and female, masculine and feminine, now we have to look at it two ways because we're dealing with a physical manifestation of gender. That's one thing. When you go into the 7 hermetic principles of Tahuti and you deal with the law of gender, that's dealing everything manifests with gender, even on the spiritual realm. But that's a whole different beast to attack. So a lot of us on the spiritual path, I'm not saying per se us in here, a lot of us on this spiritual path got that shit twisted. And it's important to know that information because when you're working with archetypes, and as you've heard me say a million times before, in nature and power on the spiritual realm, I find the feminine archetypes to be more aggressive and more warrior-like than the males. Outside of, say, Set and a few other aggressive male archetypes, I found Baron Samedi can be very powerful and aggressive, Papa Legba. But when you work with aspects of Sekhmet, and I even noticed certain paths of Oshun, when you piss her off, or Oya, can be more aggressive and violent than that you can really describe. Man, this is just unbelievable. I don't mean to get distracted. I'm watching. I'm doing this because I'm always multitasking. I'm not watching baseball. It's just so sad what hip hop music has become. All you got to do now is, I don't know if anybody's watching the VMAs, but I watch it to just see the spell. All you got to do is run around and jump like you're retarded. And just, this trap music shit is fucking garbage, man. They got a bunch of fools on stage jumping up and down. This dude is what I call homo thug. He's wearing tight ass, multicolored, tight jumpsuit with his head, with his hair braided. That's the new thing in hip hop, homo thug. Let me promote the homo thug culture. And it's just a bunch of fools running around, jumping up and down. It's unfucking believable, man. It's just, and then you got washed up Ja Rule standing up, holding his pimp cup. Fucking real, man. It's sad what it's become, man. It really is. Anyway, only types in Kung Fu loves bulls. Yeah, that's why I was saying some of these sacrifices can be, severe and intense and large, such as that. And again, if you're not into, or that's not your thing, that's not a path for you then. All right. I think that wraps it up. I don't see any more questions. Real quick in closing, if anybody doesn't have any questions, I will end it there. It seems like most of the questions have been answered. Again, if you are interested, you have until not this Wednesday, next Wednesday. As I said in the beginning of the video, if you were not here, I should have contacted and reached out to everybody that emailed me about attending the ritual. I don't think I forgot anybody. If I did by chance forget you, sometimes the email box can get full or email gets popped to the junk box and I miss it. If you did send an email to request an invite for the ritual at the end of the month and I did not get back to you, that means I did not get it or something went wrong. So I'm going to tell you again to email me. I'm trying to get, as of right now, to my knowledge, we are up to date, current, and we have reached out to everybody. We've talked with everybody that has contacted us about coming. If we have not and we have missed you, please email me and we will make sure we straighten that out. Also, as I said in the beginning of the video, if you're interested in a spiritual consultation or a reading with the Vodun spirits or the Orishi spirits, the spirits of the dead, or a general reading, or if you are interested in just a consultation, which is basically a free-for-all with me and you can discuss whatever you want. We can go over whatever you want. You can contact me, but specify what it is you're looking for. I do charge $52 to do that. It lasts up until an hour. And if you cannot get to me physically, we can do it on a private Google Hangouts video call. I do request a 2-day notice because I'm pretty much 2 days out. I go in order. So pretty much from the time you contact me, it's a day or two out, usually 2 days at least. And we can go from there. Hold on, let me type in, Brother B, what do you think about Sekhmet showing up as a monster alien like in the movie Eating Bodies off a conveyor belt? I dreamt of this type of thing. Well, remember, Sekhmet, that's you dreamt that, but that's symbolic. And I'm going to tell you, it makes complete sense with Sekhmet. Remember, Sekhmet devoured the gods. She ate the gods. She drank their blood, right? You read that in the story. Now, does it mean literally? It's not talking literally that she killed, destroyed the gods, and drank their blood. She is such an overpowering type of archetype. Because remember, real vampirism is absorption of consciousness by way of tapping into the blood current of an individual. That's how vampirism got confused for the literal drinking of blood. And again, that practice goes back to Pharaoh Unas of the 4th dynasty of ancient Egypt. So Sekhmet was the devourer of the gods. It says she drank their blood, right? You literally see this recorded in many of the Egyptian texts. When you go into the Egyptian Dictionary of Gods and Goddesses, right, which is a good book I recommend people to get. Patrick something is the author. I know a lot of you have it. I've told you to get it. Or just go research it. You'll see what she represents. She's a warrior type of energy. She's very aggressive in nature. So when you're having a dream like that, I could see the connection because it connects to that type of energy. Now, I don't know, why you had the dream or why she was eating the bodies, but I don't know if it was something you were in the middle of and it was protecting you. So not sure. So that's something that you might want to, really pry and look at, pry into and look into. All right. But I could see why you had that connection. Rev Mary said, I thought she drank human blood. Now, yes, you'll see it written down like that. But you got to remember, when you're reading a lot of those stories, it's not talking literally. It's just like when you read the story of Tar said that he thought himself into existence, right? This is a lot of these things were metaphorical. And they kind of got intertwined and interpreted as being literal. So it's not saying like, I don't have it with me right here. Oh, yes, I do. Hold on. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Sorry, I got shit all over the place. Let's go into this real fast. I'm going to try to wrap it up since we brought that up. Let's go into George Hart was the author. Author. I have so much shit in my head right now. So I'm going to go through the Sekhmet thing real quick and then I'm going to close it up. All right, this is going to be the last thing I'm doing. I'm going to shut it down. All right, Sekhmet. All right, I'm going to go into the Dictionary of Egyptian Gods and Goddesses. All right. And let's find Sekhmet and let's see what it says here. Hold on. Where is it? Hold on. Essay. My bad. All right. So Sekhmet. All right. Lion goddess of Memphis. Her name simply means the powerful and is extremely apt in the view of the destructive aspect of her character. She is shown with the body of a lady and the head of a lioness. Sometimes the linen dress she wears exhibits a rosette pattern over each nipple, an ancient leonine motif that can be traced to the observation of the shoulder knot hair on lions. She's the daughter of the sun god Re and became regarded as the consort of Tar of Memphis, where she subsumed. All right. One of these cults seems to have led to her title found on a stela in the Serapeum of Saqqara, Lady of the Achaia, since there was a degree of correspondence between Sekhmet and Bastet. Her son was taken to be the name as that of the cat goddess, namely Nefertum, the lotus god, right? Let me skip down here to show you the part. The savagery of Sekhmet is the part I was looking for. The goddess is adapted by the pharaohs as a symbol of their own. So pay attention to this. This is how they interpreted this particular goddess. Their own unvanquishable heroism in battle. She breathes fire against the king's enemies. such as the Battle of Kadesh. When she is visualized on the horses of Ramses II, her flames scorching the bodies of enemy soldiers, the wrath of the Pharaoh towards those who rebel against his rule is compared by a Middle Kingdom treatise. In a passage intended to flatter the Pharaoh, in the story of Sinu, it is said that the fear of the king pervades foreign countries like Sekhmet in a year of pestilence, a title, Lady of the Bright Red Linen, which on the surface is a reference to the color of her homeland. Lower Egypt carries from her warlike nature. Here's the important part. The secondary force of meaning the blood-soaked garments of her enemy. This is her connection with blood. One myth in particular reveals the bloodthirsty side of Sekhmet. It is found in a number of versions in royal tombs at Thebes. It involves also the goddess Hathor and her vengeful aspect. The two goddesses are both the eyes of Re, agents of his punishment. There was a temple to Sekhmet Hathor at Kam el Chisin in the Western Delta, and his temple at Abydos, Seti I, is suckled by Hathor, whose title is mistress of the mansion of Sekhmet. In the legend, the sun god Re feels that mankind plots against him. The god urges to call him down retribution on men by sending his avenging eye down to Egypt as Hathor, as the goddess slays men, leaving them in pools of blood. In the deserts where they fled, she transforms into the powerful. During the night, the god Re, trying to avert a total massacre of the human race by the goddess who clearly has become unstoppable in her bloodlust. This is where you get the story of her drinking the blood, right? This was a story that the gods conveyed into wartime. They utilized this power and what she represented, and the color red and her garments. But anyway, it continues on. Trying to avert a total massacre of the human race by the goddess who clearly has become unstoppable in her bloodlust, orders his high priest at Heliopolis to abstain red ochre from elephantine and grind it with beer mash. 7,000 jars of red beer are spread over the land of Egypt. In the morning, Sekhmet returns to finish her task of destroying the human race, drinks what she assumes is blood, and goes away intoxicated, unable to complete the slaughter. There's the mystical interpretation of this to the Black Adder, right? What this really represents to a vampire is consuming too much of the current can take one out of their right frame of mind and thinking. When you're practicing the techniques of vampirism, and we're going to go into this in depth in our next session of classes, but there's a symbolicism and a metaphor to an adept of the black arts of that story of Sekhmet and the blood, and then how they had to trick her to kind of appease her to create that harmony when they took the red ochre and mashed it up, and it was actually with beer, and she thought that she was drinking blood. So that's what I say when it was metaphor. It's a symbolic metaphorical story. It's not literal. Didn't literally mean that she drank blood. It is recorded in those texts there, but now you get a more deeper breakdown of it in the text, and he gives you the reference to it. This was a book I always recommended people to get for a while now. It's been out for a good minute. I believe it was really originally written in the 70s and the 80s. It's an A to Z on Egypt. It's in paperback. It's very thorough. It's a good book for reference. I've gotten a lot out of it over the years, and I frequently use it to teach classes, to do work, etc. All right. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, people. It's getting a little late. I didn't realize we've been on here for over 3 hours. You know where to reach me. The email address is in the description box of all the videos. It's knum19@gmail.com. That's KHNUM19@gmail.com. More than likely, next, roughly, it's hard for me to give you the exact day. I'll do another video, but I'm going to roughly say, I know the next 2 days, I will be at Marlins Park watching my Yankees tomorrow night and Wednesday night. Yes, the New York Yankees will be in town, and I'm going to be at both of them games. I ain't missing that shit. So I'm going to say Thursday or Friday. Probably Thursday or Friday. More than likely Friday, because Thursday is not really a good day right now. So more than likely, I'll put something up on Friday. I have no idea what it'll be, but I'll come up with something, and we'll talk about it, all right? All right, peace. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will see you in a few days. Peace.